debate, uncut and after show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Steve on the Level, Thomas van der Zander, Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twodwazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Mel's 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Endless, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Playing Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W., Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
To see it. My wife saw it in Alabama. I couldn't see it in New York, but my daughter saw it upstate New York. But the way what they tell you is going on, all heliocentric.
Oh, I don't care what they tell you about what's going on. It's absolutely spectacular. Breathtaking. And massive. Yeah, shame you didn't get to see it. Pardon? Yeah, I told you to come down and have a look at it and you couldn't see it, remember?
No, it was last night.
Last night? No, I didn't see it last night. I saw it about, how many months ago was it? A few months ago. My wife's asking me if I saw it, and I was like, yeah, of course I saw it. I took you downstairs. And she's like, no, last night did you see it? No, I didn't. I don't know if we got it here. We did? Okay.
Done. It's because of the dome.
Say again, sorry, I was talking to my wife. Because of the what?
Because
Dome?
of the dome.
Oh, you don't know either. Don't give me this. Don't make me have to take your nonsense apart as well.
It's the dome. Oh, there's a dome.
Okay. You don't know what it is. So how can you account for it being the dome as the cause? You don't even know what it is.
Actually,
I know it's transparent.
Hold on. Go ahead.
question for you, Nathan, on that. Would you say that the aurora borealis would be the illuminated medium, the gas being illuminated in the atmos, if you will? What
I
are your
don't know.
thoughts?
Like I just said to Neil, I don't know, and neither does he. Neither do you. They'll ascribe heliocentric rhetoric to it, obviously, but we don't know. I don't know what causes it.
I'm honestly meekly asking you the question just to, throw it around to formulate a thought, if you will. If we take on the idea of gas in the closed system and this potentially being the illuminated gas, it's just a thought I'm asking you, brother. That's all. Thank you.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I have to balance between my intrigue for these things and the public's perception of bullshit. Because you can speculate about what it is all day long. But if you don't know, you just have to admit that. Now, if we were sat in a bar, it would be a different story. I'd give you my conjecture. But we're not, so I can't. But simultaneously, just to add that balance, it's the most intriguing part of the subject, isn't it? What is the sky? What is the sun? What is the aurora? Yeah, those are the most intriguing. Those are the things that keep people here. So while on the one hand I've got to decry them because I'm like, you don't know. Hopefully you'll be the one to find out though. But until you do, at least in this arena, that's frowned upon, isn't it?
That's exactly it. And from a standpoint of there not being any, let's say, trolls here at this point in time, right? We're just having a genuine conversation about the foundation, having a genuine conversation with the foundation that we know is in place, which is the fact that we're dealing with a closed system. So then I'm asking you on that foundation, proceeding under a mind thought experiment, if you will, of if we agree that that pressure is always there. We measured at sea level 14.7 psi, 1 bar. And then I was to double down on that and say, well, what if we're actually just seeing that pressure from a standpoint of the northern lights presenting themselves, propagating on that medium that's present?
Maybe. I mean, but it's back to that, is it? Your guess is as good as mine.
Now validate that.
So, well,
Exactly. That's the
yeah.
question you're going to get. I know you're peppering it with, look, we're just all friends here. We're just having a chat. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You still get asked.
I'm about.
Prove it.
Oh, sorry. I'm about to validate that and saying, why is it that I can read a book behind a building on a sunny day?
Light reflects off things.
Does it though?
Yeah. Otherwise you wouldn't see them.
What the light is reflecting off of behind? If I'm sitting or standing behind in the shade of a building on a sunny day, what would you say that the light is reflecting off of?
Everything. Everything around it.
Give me an example. The black tar, the
Yeah.
black building.
Yeah.
What is it reflecting? Nathan?
Everything.
Okay. Thank you for that.
But why?
The
Why else?
dome.
But what's the point of your question? I'm being dismissive, but what's
Because
the point of your question?
I don't think light travels, right? I don't think it bounces. I don't think it bends. I think it propagates off of the medium. The medium is literally the highway that gives light propagation, just like sound. And we
Don't
can
tell me you're an etherite.
I can be whatever I want to be with the basis of observing how gas is able to propagate and provide light and provide sound along it. That's all it is, brother. Whether you want to
With your words betray you. You think that there is an ether. Prove it.
I
brother,
don't care. Look, right, you're entitled to your belief
I,
and speculation about this. I don't care, frankly. I mean, if it has bearing on the discussion, then fine. As in the discussion about the nature of the surface measured flat or believed to be globe-shaped. But I don't see that ether has any bearing on this. Like me saying, what's the sky? Why is it blue? You saying, well, what's the aurora? Could it be ether? It's the same thing. It's just going to be met with the same opposition. Now, because of the perceived poisoning of the well that ether creates for some, there's going to be harsh criticism for that particular speculation. Hope you understand, Gillian.
yeah, and the unfortunate part is I presented base observations for my standpoint, and I believe I didn't say the word ether. I believe that that would be whoever was on your panel that was speaking that threw in the word ether in that. I was just strictly asking to observe what it is in fact that's providing the propagation of light and sound. That's all.
Okay. Are you familiar with the scientific method?
Go ahead and school me on that, Nathan, please.
Well, it's just useful in this instance because if you're talking about the aurora specifically, that's a phenomena. Would you agree?
For sure.
Well, the only purpose of the scientific method is to elucidate the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. That's its sole purpose. That is science. So to put that phenomena through the method would be to elucidate the cause of the observed phenomena. I'm just waiting for you to say yes so I can carry on with the next bit.
Very sorry, I didn't. Yes, please
Jolly
keep
good.
going, Nathan.
So the way you would
Please.
establish what causes the aurora is to suppose a cause of the aurora. That is to say, an independent variable, something that you can manipulate as a researcher and is in your hypothesis as the supposed cause. So we'll call that A, as in what you think will cause the aurora when varied. We'll call that A. B will be the aurora. That's the effect that you're studying. So your hypothesis is if A, then B. And alongside it, you have the zero difference result, which is if A, not B. Now, to validate the cause, you vary that which you assume causes it and see if it does or not. And in so doing, it will either validate the zero difference result or null hypothesis, or validate your supposed cause. Only one can be the outcome. That is, either you'll cause it or you won't. Therefore, you'll either validate the null or validate what's known as the alternative hypothesis, your suppositional statement in the affirmative, that it will cause the effect that you're studying. Now, if you do cause the effect that you're studying, you know the cause of the phenomena. That, in essence, is the purpose of the scientific method. If you don't, that is, you vary what you thought would cause it and it doesn't, you still prove something. You prove you're null. If A, not B, tick, proven. So it's an empirical methodology for establishing and elucidating the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. That's the purpose. It's also the reason I'm chastised within the community, because I put it to Bob Nodell, another Etherite, and was condemned for it. Because in many Etherite stories, there are parlor tricks used, and the word of science is inferred, but not used. Now, me pointing that out didn't make me any friends, but now you know. That's what has advanced humanity to date. That's how we advance humanity, with the scientific method. Okay? As I say, I'd love
Thank
to
you.
know. I'd love to know what the sky is. I've also got bits of cabin filter coming into the car, Neil. Very irritating. Yeah, that's what all that fluff is, love. Coming
Bits
from the
of
cabin
what?
filter. I'm in another conversation. My wife's just sat working next to me, so she's picking up on the conversation and asking me questions about who's got crappiest car. Yes, those little bits of black fluff have come from the cabin filter. Underneath the dashboard, where the glove box is. So it's coming up through the blowy things, yeah. So underneath the dash, there's a filter that filters the air that comes into the cabin, and that's 25 years old, no doubt. It's probably never had a major service. Have we had major services on that TT? Either way, a cabin filter's not designed to last probably 5 years or more since the last major service, so it's just blowing bits of crap of the filter itself through the blowholes. It's not that, it's indicative of it needing everything else, so it'll need the spark plugs, main air filter cleaning, because ours is a K&N one that you can wash with petrol. So they'll have to wash that, change the spark plugs. One of the belts is squeaking, so they'll change that. Hopefully it doesn't need a cam belt. I vaguely remember having that done at about 120,000 miles or 100. Yeah, it's had two cam belt changes, but I remember the last one being relatively recent, like not 80,000 miles ago. So it won't need a cam belt, but it'll need a major service. If the cabin filter's blowing into the cabin, you just know it's shagged, and therefore all the other things that typically go along with a major service probably need doing, which is spark plugs and all the other filters cleaning or replacing. Probably needs the coolant flushing. That's probably never been done ever. Sorry. Talking about domestic stuff while I'm here. I'm really sorry. Members of Discord. Hey, Craig. Hey, Duncan. Hey, One Deck.
Hello,
Hi,
Nathan.
Nathan.
Hello, Nathan. Hello, everyone.
Hello, all. Hope you're all fine and dandy and fine.
Being asked in Skype if you managed to sort a moderator out, which isn't actually the question I was asked. I was asked if we're going on stage today. Do you know, AJ? He's not around.
Sorry, no stage.
Still not got a mod.
I haven't heard anything, man. Nothing at all.
Bummer. Especially as this is the most popular room.
Yeah, I think there was a mention that we have to go through another channel now, and we have to request it. But I think, like Crit was saying, there's issues with it happening all the time. They want to do it as a special event thing, but yeah, I haven't heard anything back.
Is it being left by the wayside, or is someone still on it, or what's the deal?
Hey AJ, think you can prove
Not
to me
sure.
that Earth is flat?
Oh, Saturday. You're back again. Well, we're actually running a show at the moment, so you can feel free to join the show, but I won't be answering any questions at the moment. It's not my show.
What is this? What is the show? Why is everybody muted?
So Nathan Oakley is
Got
running
a
a
lot of
show in here
questions,
tonight
don't you?
in regards to. Oh well, Saturday night was in earlier and
And I
destroyed
debunked
him
all
on
of his
gas
claims.
pressure.
Nope.
He doesn't understand gas pressure or entropy and likes to
Nope.
hand wave dismiss everything and state that he somehow won the debate when he has no understanding, claiming that James is scientific and we need to do experiments to prove the shape of the Earth. He's all over the shop.
Oh, well,
This guy.
Nathan's here.
Well, of course you gotta do experiments to, see the curvature of the Earth. How would you know?
Does he know how latitude's measured? I bet he don't know how latitude's measured, does he?
Hold on. You got to do experiments to know about curvature.
Right.
Name one. Name it.
Hold on. What's an experiment?
I did one in science class.
What's an experiment? Define it, please.
You know what the definition is. Why are you asking me? I'm not a fucking
Because you're the one who
retard.
used the word.
Mind your tongue.
Go and search it up. You have Google.
You're the one who used the word.
You're the one who used the word.
So should we just
Shut
ignore
up.
you as
You
being
know what the word
spastic?
is.
Should we just ignore you because you're a spastic? You don't know the word you're using. You can't define that word. You said you do experiments to see
What is a
curvature. I ask you
spastic?
what an experiment is. You tell me to
Why
look
are
it up.
you asking
You don't
me?
know who I
what it
am. I'm
is.
still talking while you yammer through me, you stupid, ignorant dick. You've just used a word and you don't know what it
mammoths don't
means. Do you
even
think by
exist anymore,
talking through
dude.
me, you're going to overcome the fact I'm going to humiliate your stupidity? You're an ignorant dick that doesn't know what experiment means and you're asking me to look it up. What an idiot. Don't use words you don't understand, son. You done? You're in a category error. You don't experiment on shapes and curves.
I didn't realize I was
Excuse
unmuted.
me. I'm correcting your dumbass. Sit down, shut up, and listen to me correcting you, stupid idiot.
I'm listening.
Shut up then. Go on mute while I correct you.
All right.
An
I'm all
experiment
ears.
I just defined before you got here for someone else. I explain it without them yammering through me off mute after using a word incorrectly. You don't experiment on shapes. You don't experiment on lines. You don't experiment on curves. You experiment on naturally occurring phenomena. That's something happening?
Right.
You think a curve's something happening? No. You're not going to establish the cause and effect relationship of a curve. It's not a phenomena. You're in a category error. It wouldn't involve experimentation. It's not science. You're just stupid. A typical idiot globe believer who thinks that his curve is affirmed by an experiment in a category error. What a doofus. You hear me,
Well, look who's
doofus?
talking.
Doofus, you don't know what experiment means. You asked me to look it up. You still haven't defined it. Do you want to try and overcome me pointing out how stupid you are by talking through me? I'm still talking, you stupid little boy. I'm still talking, putting you down for your stupidity and lack of acumen when it comes to scientific words like experiment. You don't know what it means. You're a globe-believing moron who doesn't know the words he uses. And you think by starting to talk again through the top of me pointing out how stupid you are, somehow you'll overcome your own stupidity, do you, dumbass? Don't use words you don't understand, you stupid little boy.
Little boy.
Chuckle it up, you stupid dick. You don't know what experiment means. You're a moron. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nathan Oakley. I'm a flat earther and I absolutely understand the words of science, including the word experiment, which you used incorrectly. You, sir, are a dumbass globe-believing moron who doesn't know the words you're using. I'm here to correct dumbass globe-believing morons on their stupid, senseless use of the English language. In this case, experiment. You don't know what it means. You're an idiot. Is that clear?
So what makes you think Earth is flat?
It's measured flat. Do you understand that you don't know what experiment means, you stupid idiot?
In what way is it measured
Do you
flat?
understand that you don't know what that word you used means, you stupid, belligerent little child?
Man, answer my question. In what
I
way
asked
does it
you
measure flat?
if you understand now that you didn't understand what that word you used meant. It was a category error. We'll deal with your stupidity first, then we'll get to the flat earth measurement.
See, now you're trying to make me look like a fool. You're
an idiot. You are a fool. I'm not trying. You did it yourself when you used a word incorrectly. Now I'm telling you off for it. Now I, Nathan Oakley, the flat earther who's not a moron, is telling you off for your stupidity. That's right. You're getting tore a strip off and put down for your stupid Dunning-Kruger use of the word experiment by a flat earther called Nathan Oakley. Suck it up, you stupid idiot.
So how does it measure flat?
Sorry, are you ever going to concede your dunce-like stupidity with this word you used incorrectly or not?
Well,
Have you no humility? Do you think by talking through me, we're going to whistle past your dumbass stupidity? No, son. Until you concede that you used that word incorrectly, we're not going anywhere. We'll just focus on your stupidity indefinitely until you concede it.
You're abusing your mute button.
Doing any? I don't run this server, you stupid dumbass. It's not my server. I don't have control of your mute button, you stupid belligerent dumbass globe believer with an appeal to the mute button when he misuses the English language. Experiment, dumbass. You think by me getting to the conclusion of what you can't concede, you think that by telling me while you continually and incessantly mute me, by talking through me, attempting to bleed some humility out of a dumbass.
Talking pretty quietly.
You're a dumbass. You've got no humility. You used the word wrong and can't concede it. You want to move on? No.
Yeah, we'll move on.
No, we won't. I'll keep you here indefinitely. We'll drag out your stupidity indefinitely. You're not understanding that? You're stupid. I'll highlight it until you concede you don't know what the word meant. Now, you can try and regain control of this conversation, but you're obviously really stupid, and nobody will side with you. You're not defining experiment. I've done that for you with you muting me, like you're doing now, dumbass. Do you want to project your mute button onto me, dumbass? You're muting me, because you don't know what experiment means, and I'm humiliating you with that fact. That's what's happening. My name's Nathan Oakley. I'm the one humiliating a dumbass, idiotic globe believer for his misuse of the English language when he was in a category error. You don't have to like that. You just have to suck it up, have some humility, and admit that you didn't know what the word meant. Then we'll move on to how Earth is measured flat.
Earth is not flat.
Sorry, I didn't ask a question. I asked for some humility. If you're not going to give it me, I'll ask the mods who do run the server and can mute you to remove your ignorant dumbass who keeps muting me from the conversation. Because you're not tolerant of being wrong. Some humility is required, son. You don't know what experiment means. You just need to accept that and concede it verbally. Can you do that? Or do we need to remove you for being intolerant and unable to concede when you're wrong?
I'm listening.
You're wrong about what experiments do with curvature, dumbass. Now you need to concede that we've been here 10 minutes. You need to say, I'm thick. I don't know what experiment means. I'm just stupid.
Right,
that's what you need to say. You need to have some humility and say that. That's what you need to do for me, Nathan Oakley, the flat earther who knows what experiment means. Unlike you, stupid idiot.
Stop muting me.
I'm not. Talking about how stupid you are. You don't know what experiment means and you can't concede it. We've been here 10 minutes. Dumbass! You don't know what that word you used meant and you wanted to move on. Now concede how stupid you were for using it incorrectly. Go.
Define the word concede.
Get rid of this asshole with no humility. No longer has a place at the table because he's a retard. Bye-bye, retard. The people who do have control of the server will now remove your dumbass because they're not going to tolerate 10 minutes of you not conceding that you used a word incorrectly and failed to define it. Want to define something else I've used after ripping you a new asshole and calling you a dumbass globe-believing idiot, because you are. Make no mistake. Now piss off, dumbass. Learn what experiment means, you stupid boy. Fun. Love being in Discord. Friday's my favourite day. Get to tell idiots with their globe belief off. Get to tell them my name, tell them I'm a flat earther, and then tell them off for their stupidity while they weasel and rumpus. Tell me I'm muting them even when I'm not in my own server, which I don't have. Don't have a server.
Yeah, I had 20 minutes with him before you came in, yeah. He just rinsed and repeated.
He got to taste his own ass. Got to taste his own ass when he talked to me, didn't he? Enjoy your taste of your own ass, Dumbo.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was stepping into there.
Yeah, know the words you're using. If you're going to call something an experiment, you better know what it is. Otherwise, you're going to have your asshole ripped through your throat by me.
That was even if it wasn't a category error, he used scientific method wrong. He said that you can do the experiment to see the observed phenomenon. It's backward.
The Muppets never even seen a curve.
It's not an experiment. Like Nathan said, he's in a category error and he won't concede. Just concede.
That's fine by me. AJ already hinted at how intolerant he was. So the moment he becomes intolerant towards an argument that he's put forward, it's justification to kick his ass to the side, isn't it? Who's going to moan? Oh no, you should have let the unreasonable prick who was wrong in his language and couldn't concede it carry on for another half an... No, piss off, you stupid numpty globe believer. That's what you'll get.
Well, I'm just trying to appeal to them that they go a lot further to just have a little humility.
Admit when you don't know something or are wrong. Yeah, they can't do that because they're in the presence of flat earthers. It's just too painful. So I'll drag that pain out as long as humanly possible while they fail to concede their stupid numpty words that they use. Meanwhile, Earth's measured flat for that dumbass. I treat them like they want to treat us. Hold a giant mirror up to their behaviour, and they cannot stand it.
That's a good way to put it. That's kind of how it started 5 years ago or so for me, was watching them, try to make fun of the easiest things that you ever heard, and then you screaming at them. I appreciate the hell out of it. No swearing.
Yeah, they want to come and tell us what's what. I've got experiments in the curve. Oh, that sounds sciencey, dumbass. In the presence of lesser mortals, you might be considered smart because you've got experiments and it all sounds very sciencey, doesn't it? No, you're just a stupid numpty and don't know what the word really means. You're just lending a bit of validity to your inference that we've got a curve to look at. But it's validated by science. No, it friggin' isn't. Just a bullshitter, like all of the globe-believing numpties that face us. They're all bullshitters. None of them have actually studied their own faith. We know more about it than they do.
Yeah, well, he came in all aggressive, yeah, when he first jumped in. He came in, he wanted to debate a flat earther because he was going to destroy him. Because no one answered him as quickly as he'd like, he started claiming we were all scared, yeah. Like I said, he just rinsed and repeated. He's already had all this explained to him 20 minutes ago. He's back to troll.
It's
He's in a lot
Dunning-Kruger
of pain.
denial. Sorry, go ahead, Duncan.
Yeah, he's in a lot of pain. I think you're saying the same thing.
Yeah, and he's rinsed and
Yes, he
repeating
just
the
keeps
chat
coming
too.
in.
His main point to me in the debate, the apparent debate, was that just imagine that you went to space with NASA.
That's your best debate point. Go to space with NASA. So imagine
Yeah,
something you can't
yeah.
do.
Oh, more imagination
Yep.
from below, I see.
Yeah, that's because that's his standard. As a little boy, he dreamt of being a spaceman, and now he wants you to fantasize in his religion with him.
They don't even follow it either. You ask them, okay, what next? You're in space. What do you do? What do you see? What do you hear? They can't fill that in because even their dreams are like a comic book. Like when someone tries to do like vivid dreaming where they fly or they go deep into the ocean, at some point it's no longer sort of a reality based vivid dream. It turns goofy because their brain doesn't have the connection. Like say if they've never been to the desert and just imagine a desert, to come up with some sort of Wile E. Coyote looking terrain. And that's what they got. They got these sort of space cartoons. And somehow that's supposed to mean something, but you ask them, what does it mean? And they can't come up with any sort of definition. Like a completely vacuous worldview that at the end of the day, now what? Absolutely nothing. Okay, I watched your space cartoon, and what? So, okay, we imagined it, and then what? And then you destroyed someone online. Wow, good job.
Could have a game of golf on the moon. What's up with you?
They want to debunk flat Earth, but they can't even tell you what it is. They want to disagree. They don't know what it is.
Well, not one of them can explain how Earth curves measured. Who measured it and what tool was used? They can't do that without mentioning certain words that they're not allowed to use.
Well, I think if I would create the imaginary idea of a spinning, wobbling, tilted space ball flying from every expanding world of darkness, I would make sure to put that ball into almost every major movie that comes out in a cinema as an intro. Then I would put it on the news because you see the news every day. Then I would put it in logos of big companies. And I would even put it in like snacks and other things. So you make sure that the people would always see that they live on a spinning, wobbling tilted space ball, because that is the most important thing, the reaffirmation of something that is obviously so true that you keep on need to show it to the people, right? Because this is not how brainwashing works at all, obviously, right?
Yeah, it's got a term. It's got an actual term. It's called the suspension of disbelief.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when you're in a theatre watching Superman and he flies up around the globe, in your mind you accept that that is a possibility. Now, because of the way that the movie's been presented to you, you understand that men cannot fly, but you suspend disbelief that Superman can fly. Because that's how movies work, that's how theatre works. What you are at the next level down unaware of is that the presentation of him flying around the globe is also a suspension of your disbelief. You can't experience that. It is fundamentally based on you believing it. But the disbelief that you would experience with something that's outrageous, like a man flying or the earth being a ball, is suspended if it's repeated, if it's constant, if it's always affirmed as being the case even though you haven't seen it. That's why the necessity to have it on the news, in the roundup music. That's why it's necessary to have it in every movie. That's why it's necessary to have every single plot be about space in some form or another. It's so that you, without realising it, suspend disbelief about sky vacuums and Earth being a ball.
So you tell me that not only we gonna do it visually, but we put it into the language too, right? Like with like atmosphere, global, and so forth, right?
Yes and no.
Just make sure to.
It's the word put I don't like. You don't put it in, it naturally occurs. Language naturally evolves. So the terms that we use to refer to heliocentric concepts we have suspended disbelief about will naturally come about. It's not like there's a magic wand and somebody saying, let's put this word into the language so that people know that the gas can take a sphere shape, in the case of your example with atmosphere. That just naturally occurs with language.
Okay. Well, so but I'm definitely just a conspiracy theorist when I say that the current distribution of the ongoing program in regards to heliocentrism is obviously not a program, right, with the redoing of old concepts and making old achievements look like new achievements. and failing to go back to the moon and make it look like as if we're still evolving in the heliocentric paradigm. This is not like programming for a new generation, right? This is just I would be a conspiracy not to dare say that this is like brainwashing or something like that, right? It can't be brainwashing, right?
Well, I think it's self-perpetuating in that regard. You know, if it's part of the schooling system and several generations have grown up under that misapprehension, then it will self-sustain so long as it's constant. But that, in my mind, to be conspiratorial alongside you, means that there must be a certain amount of external influence to keep it ticking along. You know, you've got to seal up the cracks. But then, in my own personal experience, I see the general Joe Normie sealing up those cracks on behalf of the system that you might want to infer. Does that make sense? Your average Joe who we deal with on YouTube is that Joe sealing up the cracks on their behalf. Now, some of the stuff that they do might become official heliocentric rhetoric. We used to joke about it and try and invent some of our own. If we can patch up some of the nonsense that doesn't work in a heliocentric paradigm, then maybe we'll have our name ascribed to it. Why not? You know what I mean? You've got Keplerian orbits and Copernican models. You can have the Oaklerian, you know, gravitational neutrality or whatever bullshit I want to come up with that overcomes a heliocentric problem.
But don't you find it fascinating how a few decades later they're now selling the same concept of certain achievements as achievements, even though it happened, even furthermore, it happened with greater achievements in the past with very, very old technology in their fantasy paradigm, obviously, right? It never actually happened because there's no such place to go to, which is a void of darkness. But anyways, they sell the same crap just in a different form to a new generation, right? Even though they literally took steps back, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, they recycle their own old Hollywood content.
Well, that's
two
things.
Worse.
That's psychopathic in one way because they don't come up with new ideas. They just recycle old people. Old ideas come from other people typically. So that's, in one sense, quite psychopathic. But it's also just the nature of the beast. The beast does what it has found to be successful in the past. If you've successfully taken a rhetoric and indoctrinated a certain number of people with it, you'll use the same rhetoric. When we specifically refer to NASA, they are liars. The people who have said that they're in a sky vacuum violating natural law are liars. Therefore, this push that it needs can certainly be ascribed to no small degree to NASA. There are people, without question, that know they are lying in that regard when they fake the stuff that cannot take place in an area that doesn't exist. That would be a sky vacuum. So, you know, that from two perspectives. One, yeah, psychos that don't have any empathy will just recycle stuff, and recycling stuff that's been successful is the most likely stuff to get recycled. There you go.
Interesting. Yeah, I find it fascinating how they gotta keep the generations hooked every decade. But they really, like, the quality of production really got lowered. Like, if you look at like the spacesuits they're trying to sell to you that supposedly work in the paradigm to be in a vacuum is kind of interesting. Like, they don't even try to make it good anymore. Like, I mean,
well, no.
I don't know if
You've fallen into their trap. So by arguing about whether or not spacesuits can work in a sky vacuum, accepts the notion that there is a sky vacuum. It's just whether or not the suits that they've claimed to make work there or not. There is no sky vacuum. It's like saying, will the fur coats keep the kids warm when they go through the wardrobe to Narnia? Well,
oh yeah, that's true.
There is no Narnia. Does it matter if the fur coats will keep them warm or not? There isn't a Narnia to go to. But let's argue about whether the fur coats are thick enough. It's the same thing.
True. But the main thing why I say this is in the paradigm of someone who has been brainwashed and his brain is wired to just eat up everything that is put onto the silver tablet and is commonly accepted by the mass of other brainwashed people. They just see it and they're like, oh, wow, cool new suits work in my Narnia land, you know? So
maybe.
but I'm wondering how
I'm not trying to be I don't want to be argumentative, but maybe not, because I didn't get that feeling. I was a big fan of NASA and was subscribed to them and got their downloads and email updates and newsletters and watched all their videos. And I was always left with a hollow, empty feeling at the end of all of them, partially contributing to where I am now. But at the time, I wasn't a flat earther. I just felt deeply empty at all of the presentations they offered. None of it seemed to satisfy my need to know what was going on. And all of it seemed to be, like we all know now, presentations of garbage and cartoons, often disclaimed to be exactly that by NASA themselves. So while you say, oh, most people just gobble it up, most people are indifferent and don't pay it any attention. The fact that it's there in the background might relieve some anxiety if they were to ever look into it, but they're not feeling that anxiety because they're not looking into it. The ones that do, that you say accept it, want to vehemently defend it because they want their paradigm to be true, because they're only looking, potentially, because they're, like me when I was subscribed, wanting to know more because you're not quite satisfied. So for them, they might not be gobbling it up as you suspect they are.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Actually, haven't seen it that way. Yeah.
I certainly didn't. I always felt really empty after hearing that NASA were going to show me something in space. It could be as vague and as open as this as well. Here's this thing in space. Cool. That's the headline. You click on the email, you go to the video. And there isn't a video, it's a CGI rendering, and it says it's an artist's impression on all the photos that are in the email. You're like, okay, well, you've explained what you're potentially going to do. You haven't actually done it yet. But in the headline, it's made it sound like you've done this, but fine, you haven't actually done it yet. And what's going to take place in 6 months is this, and this is what it'll look like. So 6 months rolls around, you get the email, and they've done it now. And there's no footage of that either. And there's the same explanation that you got, but with them saying that they've now done it. And again, you have this empty, hollow feeling. And you're like, that didn't really satisfy me that we've got a better understanding. I didn't even get to see anything.
Yeah. One thing I gotta say, which does satisfy me, is once you have understood how the magician is tricking you, you can now lean back and look at the brainwashing and the programming that they use, and it's many times very, very amusing how bad the trickery is.
Yeah.
That is what satisfies me. And to see the anti-flat earthers, the typical people that you talk to most of the time, unfortunately, how they defend such miserable things because they want to keep that miserable, deceptive programming in their mind for whatever reason. I don't know what happened in their life with some people that they just want to keep that delusion going on, even though deep
I
inside.
can answer that. Because it has perceived value. In the same way, me investing in those emails and newsletters and keeping up to date with NASA, that's an investment, isn't it?
True.
Right. So if you're heavily invested in something, are you inclined to pull out, turn tail, make a 180-degree?
Oh.
No, not if you're heavily invested.
Yeah. I can only imagine if you have a degree that goes into the direction or is within the paradigm structure of heliocentrism, the Copernican religion, then I can only imagine how hard it would be to leave the cult. So likewise, you would just probably try to be a pretender clown and say that you still believe in your cultish religion. I can only imagine the pain, right? How like you studied a decade of your life deeply, and then you thought you're enlightened with your Copernican religion, and you go out and tell everybody, and then people come around who obviously expose that it's all crap. Yeah, I can imagine that must hurt to let go.
Bear your pain.
And you have to consider a lot of them may be forced to just to keep their careers because otherwise, if they start speaking the truth, they could get canceled or worse.
Sound like you're underwater, Duncan.
Yeah, of course.
Something wrong. You sound like you're underwater.
Welcome back.
Of course, if you are financially dependent on your job, lying to little children, for example, or whatever, being educated as an example, then obviously you gotta go on because, gotta pay the bills, so to say.
Yeah, and all arguments will be an extension of that argument to one degree or another, based on the investment level. check, check.
Mic check. Hello.
Nah, it's not really made a difference.
Yeah,
but fine.
gotcha. Yeah, it's
We
really
can hear you.
tough because you never know what's gonna flat smack someone. It is, like with Clay, talking about the spacesuit, because or someone might get flat smacked by that because it might click. That suit would not work in a rainstorm. Like you would get soaking wet wearing that thing.
Let me try a
is
different
it-
way
Oh,
with
sorry for
spacesuits.
swearing.
Just for you,
Yeah.
Chris. Okay, I use this example when I'm doing discussions with normies on OMI TV. So you connect to a normie and you start laying it out for them, and you've got to give your best elevator pitch in that regard, because if it's not concise, they'll just spin on. And when I'm talking about spacesuits, I'm normally detailing them how the spacesuit is a container to hold the gas inside the suit for the spaceman to breathe. You following along so far?
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Right.
I got it.
So now imagine you're in the spacesuit, looking back at Earth without a suit around it, in the vacuum that your suit's protecting your gas from, but Earth doesn't have one. It's just got the high pressure gas next to the black vacuum, not filling it. So the gas will want to fill the space if you didn't have a suit, but Earth doesn't have that worry. It just sort of hovers there. That's the example I use to get someone nodding along to, oh, right, yeah, gas fills space, doesn't it? That's why they need the spacesuits in an area that isn't real. But that's how I conclude. Yeah, there is no area that a man in a suit needing to keep his pressure inside it can look back on Earth without a container around it. That area isn't real.
Mic check one more time. Hello. Any better?
Much better, much better.
This conversation also reminds me of the little boy observing the parabolic trajectory of the rocket, saying, it's looking bad. But then, and all the parents are like, no, it's fine. You know what I'm talking about? We've talked about that before, I think.
It's coming down. It's coming back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dad just bullshits him. No, gravity and Coriolis and blah, blah, blah. Mumble, mumble. Okay, daddy. Don't worry, your precious head about it, son. Lots of heliocentric words. Did you hear the heliocentric words, son? Yes, daddy. On you go.
Have you ever wondered about the arc size when they do the supposed arc? How is that corresponding to the alleged size of the spinning wobbling tilted spaceball? Especially if you look at the arc and the rocket supposedly leveling out from an airplane recording. It just absolutely makes no sense. Like just visually, the supposed curve that it is trying to get over it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just absurd that anybody that looks just for 5 minutes into these rocket launches thinks that it's going anywhere but to the ground, back to the ground.
Well,
Like,
it has a calculable ballistic trajectory, if I could wrap my tongue around it, and that would require a flat plane of reference. Why do you think they've lost the trajectory data for the moon? Why do you think that wouldn't surface and they'd rather have them look stupid by having lost it? Why do you think that is? I'll tell you why. All measurements lead to a flat Earth. Their origins are all off a plane of reference, without exception. Earth is measured flat. That is not limited to things like the bullshit about travelling to a moon. They still absolutely, without question, require a horizontal plane of reference to make any calculations, and always will. Now, in 2024, again, this is the main reason we come here week after week on a Friday, is to explain that to the panel, you guys in Discord. Foreign server to me, I'm only here to tell you that. All measurements of Earth are flat. That is not limited to our assertion. It's a matter of fact that the globe requires in order to infer it for idiots who've been brainwashed, as you put it, to reify a paradigm created by the church. But those church paradigms have come from those flat Earth measurements. Make no mistake, Earth is measured flat.
Yeah, the first step in proving a globe is always measuring Earth flat first.
Yep. Nothing has changed. The fact that we have a break in the reverse engineering process that potentially your normie could go through, it stops at the globe. Like, that's the starting point? Nope. But that means that there's a disconnect between how Earth is actually functionally creating that globe they believed in and reified, and is alleged to function at an equatorial plane in hell, versus the origination of the measurements that created it. The common man does not know this. We do. That's why we're censored. That's why this show will be the least popular of the week. Because we're telling you. Now, you're privileged to it in Discord. Not that the globe believers will be grateful for knowing how their globe is created. But make no mistake, that is how Earth is dealt with. Flat. So nothing changes. All of the origins remain as they were. The Earth hasn't unfolded. It was always flat, and that flat process of angle measurements to the stars created the globe. So if you want to rewind history, it's not that covered up. It's only us with our false narratives of feast of nonsense garbage that is alleged to be the flat Earth rhetoric. It isn't. It's put in place so that you don't dig below the surface and realise that all of the measurements originate in a flat Earth. But dig a little bit and you'll find them. They can't cover them up. That's how Earth functions. So it has twofold effect. Nothing actually changes. Earth is still dealt with in the same way, because it was always dealt with flat. We say hello to Eli. Hey, Eli.
Hey guys, just at the hospital. Not a big deal. Unfortunately, my girl's got a cough, so I'm here. I was so ready to get to Friday because I missed you guys all week, so I'm just listening in.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, good luck with that.
Oh, it is still morning. I guess I can bring up Candace on randomly. Is Brian around?
No.
Oh man, have I become a listener of hers over the past week or so because we have a common enemy.
In her?
No, not in her, in someone that she's reporting on.
Oh, who?
I don't want to say.
Oh, don't give me that crap. Tell us immediately.
Well, it has to do with the election, so.
That's why you don't want him. Fair enough. Should have heeded your warning.
Yeah.
No, don't tell me.
Yep. But also, though, I happen to, I forget who else she was talking to, but what was crazy was this was obviously a heliocentrist explaining to her how geostationary satellites do X, Y, Z. Totally just like, pouring in the space religion, but like also, I think he was kind of being, what's the word? Uh, conspiratorial about the Hurricane Helene events and stuff. And so the thing I just honed in on was all of the Narnia Boulder Dash, and I'm like, man, I don't know if she stands a chance.
You used a term that just by chance we were talking about language, now it molds itself. Well, many years ago, I would have assumed that required a change in vernacular at the higher up level, as in NASA. So what you said was geostationary, but they don't actually call it geostationary anymore. You know what they call it now? Geostationary is a bit too telling. So now they call it geosynchronous.
Oh yeah, right. Wow, that is slightly better.
It's slightly less telling. Those are two words you don't want together, do you? Geostationary.
Right.
I appreciate it's one word, but you know I'm driving at. Right, I'm gonna have to push a few buttons for a few
Yeah.
minutes, okay? Hold on one second. So just so you're pre-warned in the Discord server, I know a lot of you are regulars anyway, but please don't swear when we go live. As frustrated as you may get with something that's being discussed, please don't swear. That's about it. Yeah, hopefully you'll still chat amongst yourselves for 5 minutes while I press a few buttons.
And then back to flat Earth. One of the newest revelations is, of course, pitch data for airplanes during their flight routes is never pitching downwards. It's always horizontal or above horizontal, which also proves Earth is flat.
Well, you are going to need a horizontal plane of reference for pitch data.
Yeah, so you start with a horizontal reference plane first just to get the pitch data to begin with. No curves anywhere.
Pitch data has got no relationship whatsoever with curvature. Like you say, aeroplanes always, I think it's usually 2 to 5 degrees above horizontal. Always, never pitching below horizontal.
And that's what airplane means anyways. It's a plane, like a plane of reference, horizontal plane of reference in the air. That's where the name came from.
Yeah, and they're even fitted with an artificial horizon, which is a horizontal line.
Straight flat line. I suppose somebody wants to ask us about Santiago to Sydney, Australia here shortly. Are there any globers that can explain why pitch data is always horizontal on airplanes? Maybe something to think about when we go live.
How is this pitch data presented?
In a graph.
So it's derived from numbers, which could be fudged, yeah?
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, yeah, just if somebody was to present data that said, no, here it is, they're just numbers on a graph, then probably we could make them up, couldn't we?
I suppose, but then we would be providing the source of where we're getting that from to begin with. So the source is presenting it flat to begin with. It's not us making up numbers.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying everything works both ways, doesn't it? We could fudge numbers, they could fudge numbers, but I just wondered how it was presented. How did it come out of a machine? In what format? In like Excel or just some form of data?
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know if we've got any questions lined up. As is the case and has been for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we're unable to get access to a stage in politics, which is unfortunate, but hopefully the mods are on the ball for the next hour or so, and we'll get some questions from some of the participants in the politics server. So we don't typically frequent this. This is certainly not my server. We're a guest here, so I'll just remind my own panel, please be on your best of behaviour. Let's not get complacent, although we are regularly here as guests. But yeah, as I say, there may be protracted silences on a Friday show as we wait for the next question to come from whoever is in the politics panel. But with that, I'll actually ask, is there anything that's lined up? If not, maybe I'll ask a housekeeping question. I'll ask AJ. Anybody got any questions lined up for us, AJ?
No, it doesn't appear so. We've got a couple of new faces in here. We've got Major Colvin. We've got Nani and Rhetoric. You guys want to jump in and add to the conversation?
Nani and Rhetoric's one of ours.
Is he? I had a
Yeah,
feeling.
Well, I've been waiting for it rather than questions and coming and giving the so-called, evidence of the curvature that they think they have underneath the feet, and who measured it, how it was measured, and what tools and instruments are used to measure it. I mean, that's what I'm waiting for, because every time I hear somebody try and explain how curvature is measured, they start talking about elevation angles, sea level, vertical, perpendicular, plumb.
Hold on 1 second, one deck. Did you want to add something, Nani and Rhetoric? You're off mute.
Yeah, I want to say only AJ, it's me, Sasha. It's not Glover.
Yeah, I just seen your profile then and realised. Checked it out. Sorry, man.
So, one deck's formulated a list of words that are not allowed or toleratable from globe-believing numpties. You want me to do the honours, or would you like to do it, one deck? I'll do it.
Yeah, you go for it, Nathan, please. Yeah.
Sea level, horizon, horizontal, parallel, plumb, perpendicular, elevation, angles, triangles, sea sextant, theodolite, spirit level, altitude, vertical, tangent, straight, line, up, down, plane, north, south, east, west, azimuth, altitude, and flat. Those are 30 words that you are not allowed to use if you're a globe believer.
You could add bubble sextant to that as well.
Double sextant?
Oh, the aeronautical, yeah.
Oh, bubble. Sorry, I thought I had something else.
The thing is, AJ, the list can go on and on and on. So we ended it at 30 between us all. And I mean, am I right in saying, Nathan, if because we find this all the time, they do find themselves using them words when they're trying to explain curvature, which has got nothing to do with curvature. Could you call that a category error, or is that incorrect?
I don't know if you call it a category error.
If they're trying to explain curvature, but actually they're talking about level, horizontal, plumb, perpendicular. It's not it's a different. It's nothing to do with curvature, is it?
Well, there's a disconnect, isn't there? Because when they use those terms, they don't appreciate that by using them, they're violating the principle of the ground. They need to be curved and therefore cannot be utilizable for such principles like directionality, north, south, east, west, right? It's like, no, you can't have those. But they don't recognize that disconnect. But is it a category error? No, you'd naturally assume that regardless of your belief in the surface, that it has something to do with the way the surface functions. Now, for them, it doesn't, but it's only been in, 2024 that we've been pointing that out to them. This list is new, right? You've only had it for 6 months, right?
Yeah. I think all of us, but this is how we've noted now that it's a pleasure to give the globe believers the mic for a few minutes and say, explain how curvature is measured. And before you know it, they're telling you how flat Earth is measured.
How flat Earth.
And not realizing, how flat Earth is.
Sorry, Nathan. I just want to correct you.
Hi,
It's
Brian.
only been one deck. It's only been 2024 since you've been taking that line with them.
Yeah.
You
I do.
said we.
Okay, well,
That includes me.
I didn't realise you'd take umbrage with that. So, okay, where I draw a line in terms of date is just so that we have a chronology. It doesn't necessarily mean that Brian hasn't known this and been preaching this for probably 6 years. Let's not mistake what I'm doing. In terms of when we say, right, we're going to give this a title and make it the year of the Black Swan, it doesn't necessarily mean that prior to the Black Swan, people weren't observing black swans. They were. And likewise, it doesn't mean that the current rhetoric wasn't being preached by many, including Brian, which is understandable why I take umbrage with me defining it in that way. I don't mind giving clarity. It's just simpler to say, this was the year that we were telling people about Earth being measured flat. This was the year that we were saying all roads lead to flat Earth. This was the year that we were talking about elevation angles. This is the year we were talking about the black swan. It doesn't break down that simplistically, obviously. But I can appreciate you taking umbrage with it, because there are people smarter than I who recognised a lot of these points long before I did. And I will poo-poo them until there's something that comes along that I like. And I'm more than happy to say that. I like lay down my own standards, and if it means that people will categorise me as stupid prior to that fact, then I'm more than happy for that to be the case. I recognise that I am just an average guy. Brian, on the other hand, all hail Brian.
No, I'm not. No, don't turn it into that now. You're after doing that nonsense now again. It's like, I'm not trying to put myself forward as smarter than anyone. I'm just saying that what you're talking about concerning this year, I was already taking that line a long time before that. So when you say we, that includes me. It's like, we didn't know. I just wake up on the 1st of January 2024 and go, you know what? They're using levels. They're using horizontals. They're using, spirit levels. They're using theodolites. They're using bubble sections. It's all flat. They've all been all the time referencing a flat plane. That because it's unfair. You could say this year we're pushing that, but that doesn't mean that this year is when it started. Like,
no, I appreciate that. I mean, prior to that, we were saying things like you'll need a flat Earth for that, and it's more of a tacit recognition of an overall point that's been brought to an accumulated point in this year. But like you say, it doesn't mean that other people didn't recognise it or were utilising it or pointing out what they're hijacking. And, a list that concisely summarises it doesn't define the point that we recognise this either. But, it's arbitrary and just for ease of discussion. But, yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Brian. And I don't decry any. And also, you shouldn't put yourself down. You're like, I'm not taking it to that place where I'm smarter. Nah, you don't have to. In terms of people's intellect in this circle, Brian, people recognise when you've done stuff that's smart. People know how smart you are, Brian. Same with me. Well, they know. We're out there wearing how smart we are on our sleeves daily, aren't we? So people know how smart you are.
I appreciate that people might give me a bit of a respect there, and that's good. But I don't want to. I just don't want it to be about that. I'm just saying that it wasn't as if we were confounded by this globe until the 4th of January 2024.
Sure.
And how they measured it. You know what I mean? That they didn't measure. Because before 2024, we already knew that the globe came from flat plane measurement. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that when you say 22, it's just that. I'm just saying the way you say it sounds like we all just kind of woke up on January 4th, 2024, and went.
The way I see it is we started coming out to the Politics Discord server 2024 to proactively promote this fact. Well, that just means that we've been preaching it in a particular place. And prior to that, we were looking for a place to preach it, right? We went to all sorts of different servers to see which one was going to be the most useful to punt this narrative out there. And that started in 2024 quite specifically. So there are key moments that I can reference where things, not this argument, started. But it doesn't mean anything. It's just arbitrary, and it's just assistance for memory, nothing else. I forget what happened yesterday half the time.
It started well before 2024. I mean, I reckon it started about 2,000 years ago.
Exactly. I was going to go there next. Light lines.
What was that?
A good one.
What was that? What was that Greek guy's name? What was that Greek guy's name who was punting it back then? Oh yeah, I think he started it all.
Well, that's the point. I was saying this in the pre-show, right? Nothing changes when you understand the origin measurements of the globe. It's like there's a perception that when you recognise that Earth is flat, that suddenly things will alter. It's like, no, everything that you believed in that was globe-shaped had its origins and genesis in flat Earth measurements. Therefore, the way you perceived it to function will not alter, knowing that there is a step before your globe that you were up until this point reifying and thinking you were standing on. That still has its place in history for tracking the stars. It just doesn't mean you're standing on it. But the way it came to fruition and was used subsequently, it doesn't change. Nothing changes. The world doesn't unfold. There's a mathematical inference that you can reify into belief. That is to say, you can believe you're standing on a sphere based on those maths. But those maths are still based in the same flat Earth angle measurements to the stars as they always have been and always will be. Nothing physically changes when you recognise that Earth is flat. It still functions exactly the same way, doesn't it, Brian? So when you say they've been hijacking flat Earth forever, and we started pointing out 2024, no, it was earlier. It was always flat. They've always measured it that way, and the globe requires it to be so to push it into existence for people to believe they're standing on it.
Yeah, I mean, unless your name is Pythagoras, then you can't. Then no one can claim the right angle triangle, if you understand what I mean. Even Eratosthenes, he used the right angle triangle, but he wasn't Pythagoras. And even at that, we just don't have the names of the people in Babylonian times that where Pythagoras got all his stuff from, because the right angle triangle is attributed to Pythagoras, but it's technically from the Babylonians. You know, they were doing geometry like that well before Pythagoras. You go back thousands of years. So really what it is more of a waking up as opposed to being smart, isn't it? It's like when you spot, after seeing it for 1,000 times, that they're using a horizontal measurement, a horizontal that they're measuring from, and horizontal distances to then back calculate and create a globe mathematically. That's just you waking up and accepting what was always there in front of your face, as opposed to being super smart.
Exactly. And being super smart normally starts with an ignorance of that genesis. So you start trying to explain how it functions with a starting point of sphericity. It's like, no, you've got to create that globe first. You're going to need a flat Earth for that.
Well,
and I think, sorry, Brian.
Just 1 second there. One next second. The wisest people, right? The genuinely wisest people are the ones that realize how little they know, isn't it?
Is that your way of confessing that you don't know much?
Well, no, I mean, we know that the celestial bodies are a complete mystery to us. We don't try and make up stories about them. We state the fact that as you rise in altitude, they appear to rise with you. We can't measure a distance to them or height to them. They don't behave like we would expect them to behave terrestrially. They do things that we can't. You know, we don't know what they're made of. Blah blah blah. So is it wisdom to know all those things, or is it an acceptance of your own ignorance? You know, that kind of way.
Yeah, it's an acceptance of your own ignorance, but that doesn't really assist you. It's not progressing you in any way. You know, if you've got something that's standing in the way of your own ignorance, you're a net negative. If you think it functions because they're physical, because of a reified model, well, that isn't helping you either. But even if once you get to what you're calling sort of perceived knowledge, I know they're not physical, or I know they're not behaving in the way that terrestrial observations behave. Well, that's not knowing something. It's, knowing you don't know something isn't really putting you in a net positive position, is it? I still don't know. I'm no better off.
No, but people will call it wisdom when really it's just an acceptance of your own ignorance.
Yes, exactly. It's an acceptance of your own ignorance. I don't know why the sky is blue. I don't know why the stars don't change their angle as you raise an elevation. I do know what that's useful for. Keep us informed, AJ. Otherwise, hold on. We'll churn our way through this entire live show chit-chatting AJ now, especially now Brian's here. He can talk for England, even though he's Irish.
Go for it. The only person I can see in here is Euclidean trigonometry, which we've spoken to many times, and no one's piping up.
Oh, it is just the case that you just have to pipe up. If you're in the Discord server and you want to put something into this show, you just have to pipe up. There is no stage for you to raise questions and jump into the stage with them. You're just in here.
Well, just going back to that list, Brian. We've always spoke about. I just we just put that list together because I just went through a phase and still do. Is once they use one of them, rather than get into the. Sometimes I just think, well, you're not going to. I stop them from using the words. I tell them you can't use that word. I can use that word if I want. I said, well, you can use it, but you're not describing curvature, so I'm going to stop you using it. And they don't like that. And sometimes I've been told it comes across a little bit hostile, and I'm not giving any chance for the opponent to speak. But why would I give somebody a chance to speak about they're supposed to be mentioning how curvature is measured when all the terminology they're using is nothing to do with curvature, and it's got everything to do with flat, horizontal, plumb, and level.
you heard the
So I have to just stop to it.
Christian
Sorry.
joke about man telling God that he can create life and doesn't need him anymore? Have you ever heard that joke?
No.
Like God's looking over men and they're all having a little huddle and they're talking amongst themselves. And he's like, "Hey lads, what are you up to?" And they look up to God and they say, "We don't actually think we need you anymore. We think we can create life without you." He's like, "Oh really? On you go. Let's have a watch." So the guys start gathering up a big pile of dirt, and God goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. Get your own dirt."
Yeah, overconfidence of man.
Yeah, first law of thermodynamics joke.
Yeah, get your own measurements. If you want to infer you got a curvy surface, don't be using a flat surface to infer it. Use a curved surface. What do you mean I can't use east? It's a flat direction. You haven't got a flat direction on a globe. Well, I can still use it. You can use it on a flat Earth. Welcome to Flat Earth. Feel free to use our flat Earth terminology on a flat surface with flat directions and flat measurements and flat angles. But we'll just welcome you to Flat Earth and tell you that if you're going to maintain your globe belief, you're not allowed to use that word. Because you can't. Get your own dirt.
Well, yeah, it is actually very paralleling that joke, because not that we're God or anything, but it's paralleling the joke is because they need the flat plane before they can do before they can claim any after calculation on the globe. You know,
Don't be so modest. I've seen you. You've got a fantastic physique. You're like a Greek god.
Oh yeah, the very persistent cat who would not stop making noise unless I left her in. So it would have been impossible to talk to. But the thing about it is this, right? When they were, because I'm going through it at present with them about the term level. I know Bev and them went through this with them ages back, but they might have taken a slightly different direction than me. But it's the same thing, right? And other people have gone through this with them, and me as well in the past before. But level is either one-dimensional to them or three-dimensional. Depends on what way they answer. So it's either just a point on the surface of their sphere that's at an equal distance from every other point from the center, right? That would be a circle, basically, right? So, or a sphere. A perfect sphere or perfect circle, let's say, right? Or it's three-dimensional, where every point is at a drop value from every other point, which is what a sphere is. But you can't have 2 points that are at equal level. I have to use the term level because that's what it's for, to each other. Horizontal can't exist.
Yeah, one day.
You know what I mean?
Do you see how Brian's struggling with this? Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't
man.
but help use the flat Earth terminology, can you, Brian?
No, it's impossible. And this is where I'm going. For them to actually measure the surface of the Earth as a sphere, whether it be when they used to pre-assume that the horizon was geometric or whatever they do, they have to use level and a drop value, right, from that level to whatever point they're measuring to. So every one of their claims involves level being horizontal for them to do the thing they need to do.
Yep.
Because, you know what I mean? So it's a drop from one point to the other. But they require horizontal, right, level. So they require a level to be horizontal for that to happen. But then they want to argue that level is some other thing. And now they want to argue that horizontal is only a completely, now this is not the first time they've argued this, but they're arguing it harder than ever now, that horizontal is just some local phenomenon, right, which completely violates horizontal. Because it goes back to then, they're actually inadvertently admitting that horizontal can't exist within their paradigm.
Yeah,
horizontal is a constant.
Exactly. They're defying an axiom. All horizontals run parallel with the plane of the horizon. That is an axiom that they have to defy.
Well, all horizontals can't be parallel to each other, and all horizontals can't be parallel with the plane of the horizon if horizontal is only a local phenomenon.
But you can't describe it as being local, because to describe the difference with each of the different quote-unquote local areas, you'd need a master horizontal, if you will, to define the difference between them. It doesn't matter if you
Because
change it to say we've got lots of different tangential horizons, right? Which is what they're saying. How do you define each of them? You're going to need a plane of reference. Now, how do they actually do this on screen now by coincidence? They do it from hell with a center point, with a plane of reference in the middle of the ball, making the ball a glorified protractor. But you always, you've said it already, I'm just reiterating your point, Brian. You always need that plane of reference, even if you're going to be describing local horizontals. Really? And how do you describe them with respect to each other? Well, you'll need an overall horizontal plane of reference. Well, what would that be called? Horizontal? Much? You're always going to end up at the same point. Not point, line. My bad with the terrible terminology at the end. Same point in terms of our points of argumentation, not point as in point on a sphere. Just to make that clear.
Well, the problem is that the local horizontal a mile away from you, right, has to have a drop value or a pitch or slope value away from the horizontal you're on, right? So that means they must use the horizontal that they're claiming you're on, right, to determine the slope or pitch value, right, of this other claimed horizontal in relation to horizontal. Do you know what I mean? You need horizontal. You need level to be horizontal to even make that claim, and then you know what I mean, mathematically. But how can this other one, whether it be 10 feet away from you or 10 miles away from you, how can this other claimed horizontal also be horizontal if it has a pitch below horizontal? It's crazy. That's the problem. That's why horizontal is always going to be a constant. It can never be a local phenomenon. That's completely impossible. That makes it not horizontal. It makes it not exist. But the orientation of horizontal and vertical, which is always 90 degrees to that horizontal, they're always a constant. They can be parallel to each other, but the verticals can't diverge and horizontals, right, cannot be at different pitches to each other. It's crazy to even make that claim.
Right, even if you put 90 local horizontals together from the zenith of Polaris out to the equator at 0 degrees, that's a local 5,400 nautical miles of horizontal.
Well, horizontal is not a local phenomenon when they're using it across their equatorial plane. Then it's not local. Do you know what I mean? It's always, do you know what I mean? When they need to refer to when they need to transpose a measurement in reality off of that horizontal plane onto their globe, they need to treat their equatorial plane as that constant horizontal. So how can they claim there's different horizontals when it suits them, they need to use their equatorial plane at vernal equinox, I might add, which extends that horizontal plane out into their celestial plane, making it way huger. You know what I mean? So what happened to your local horizontal?
They must feel really. They must think, oh, if we just call it local, but it can be a little sphere if we call it local.
No, it's in hell. That's Brian's point. I mean, you can call it a master horizontal, but it's already got terminology. You've already defined it, right? Equatorial and celestial plane. Equatorial at vernal equinox is the only time it'll function with two separate systems that have been combined into one. It's on screen now. I love these new slides. These are all from 10th Man. Big shout out to your 10th Man.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Big shout out.
Nice one, 10th.
Brother.
They're just constant.
Truth is,
go ahead, whoever that was.
The truth is horizontal is horizontal. I know that's not like super remarkable, but it's actually the truth. I feel like what the most important thing to understand is that talking to someone like a Glober, or not that they're a Glober, but when a Glober is non-responsive, when anyone becomes non-responsive, anything beyond that point is kind of like quicksand. Because you would never argue with someone about the sky being blue or anything else that's obviously what it is. But it's like we almost have to do that, or We just have to. But in my everyday life, even when, I don't care how many Glovers are in the room or how many family members get triggered. It's funny that because we've condensed the argument down to something so simple, I used to say a lot and now I say a little. And everyone in the room now typically goes to the Glover that decides to think that they're just going to embarrass me. They go, "This dude is smart. That sounds like it makes sense. It wasn't a lot of BS, because it is what we're saying. Just is what it is what I'm saying. Never forget that what we're saying just is what it is.
Just to
Super
address what you
simple,
first
super
said,
true.
you said horizontal is horizontal, and you said with a disclaimer that sounds like a stupid thing to say. Well, it would be, but for the fact that we have people who would say prior to that statement, horizontal is curved. So that sort of nonsensical statement would be followed up by what you said, which is no, horizontal is horizontal.
I think what Eli said is I get wrapped up in this sometimes, and really, when you get to that stage, they've lost all logic, and there's no need really to go any further into a if you're talking to someone who's telling you horizontal is curved and level is curved, the conversation really must end at that point, I think.
Well, the thing about it is what Eli was what I got from what he was actually saying is that it's stupid to have to say it. It seems stupid to have to say it, but it's just true. Like Nathan, when you were saying master horizontal earlier, I think I had a chance to say this to you. Well, at that point, what you're doing is you're actually trying to come up with some fantasy horizontal that can't be a master horizontal if horizontal is not a constant.
Right.
You can't have a master constant horizontal if horizontal is not a constant, because that means whatever they're claiming is, you know what I mean?
Sounds
It can't
nonsensical,
be.
right?
Yeah.
Again, if you isolate this conversation and you don't have context for it, we sound like we're gibbering idiots. But we're only having to clarify what seems so obvious because people defy it.
Yeah, the first comment I got on that level video I brought out a few days ago was seems to be of somebody I've never come across before. And they just must have found the video by accident. And they went, yeah, level's flat. Well done, genius. You know what I mean? And they seem like someone who was just a normal person who doesn't realize that if you told them it was flat, the earth was flat, they'd argue with you. But as soon as they argue with you there, it's them that are claiming that level is not flat and that level is not horizontal,
Okay.
and horizontal is not horizontal.
Okay, Brian.
So
Brian, this is Johnny B here, and I will.
I know, Johnny. I
know
was
what
just
you're
finishing what I was saying there.
I understand you. Do you understand? You are making everything that you're trying to say. You are making it so difficult to people to understand.
I don't think so.
You are no ability. You are no ability
Don't let Johnny do this. Don't let Johnny do this. I injected
You're
the
just
right.
trying to make
Johnny's
it
just going to come
more
in
complicated.
in the middle of things and completely
No.
Okay, everyone stop.
injected-
Right, stop. Okay, right. What we're going to do is we're going to let Johnny make his objection, regardless of you already feeling that it's going to be nonsensical. He's saying, just to summarise what he's not managed to make it all the way through so far, that it's too difficult to understand. Let him make the end of his point. Hopefully he'll shut up at the end of it. Go ahead, Johnny. Do you want to just conclude your point? Feel free.
Yeah, that I'm trying to say. Yeah, he has a lot of things he's thinking about, and his accent. What can I say with my accent? But anyways, he is a daily man on the show, and he's making his argument so difficult for normie to understand.
You got that?
Grab. And I will tell you why. Because he is taking in aspects that has nothing to do with the understanding of a normal human being to take it in. That I will say is, as a flat measurement, is just you are standing on your ground, you are taking an elevation angle to the sun, 50 degrees, and you take it down with the instrument, and you get 90 degrees. 90 degrees, yeah.
Yeah, but Johnny,
you have
that's
to take 50 from 90.
Oh, done.
That is you have to do.
He's nearly
What
there.
we are talking about is elevation angle. What is elevation angle? You're aiming to the star. You're aiming to the sun. That's the
I
elevation.
want you to describe the
From your body.
seasons. Describe
I'm
how
not talking
seasons
about
work on a
it.
flat Earth.
Yeah, sure. You know what? We're not.
I
I'm not
hope our
talking
people
about.
not
I'm not
talk over
talking
me.
about the
Okay, hold on.
elevation
We've got a
While
bit
angle.
of
I'm
chaos.
trying to explain
Stop. Johnny.
how easy it is.
Johnny, please. At some point, you've got to conclude. I think we got your point so far, but you're now into a new example of what you would do. The criticism we've heard, I think. I don't think there's anything to add, but I'm sure Brian will want to respond to you. Can you tolerate him without interrupting him? And hopefully the guy who was, just about to hopefully add a point, we'll get to him too. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not talking about elevation angles, Johnny. I'm talking.
I know. As soon as you started, he's not on mute and he's going through the top of you. So no, please just mute Johnny.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'm on my
No, you're still talking, Johnny. That's why I've asked the server operators. Please mute him. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not talking about an elevation angle. I'm talking about what they claim is level and what they claim is horizontal, and how that I'm detailing how what they're claiming is so unworkable and wrong. That's what I'm doing. The horizontal baseline that that elevation angle will have, they're trying to claim is not what you think it is. So I'm not talking about an elevation angle, Johnny. I've been talking about level and horizontal and what they're trying to turn them into, as opposed to what they actually are, and what we can prove them to be.
Okay.
That's what
Can I just add?
No. Right, he's had to be muted, but it's his discussion. Let Johnny respond to Brian, then we can move on to the guy in Discord who wanted to ask something about seasons.
Yeah. So everybody understand that we agree with each other, that we are talking about this just to bring it to the audience and to the.
Speak up, Johnny. We can't hear you.
What we are talking about at elevation angle is something that you are using instrument. We are using the sextant. You take the elevation angle down to the horizon that is right in front of you. In the same time, you get the three directions. You have the elevation angle, you have something else right in front of you, and that is going down from the distance. That will give you 90 degrees. That will also give you.
Okay,
yeah,
Johnny.
but Johnny, you have to completely ignoring what I said.
You are taking the star or the sun.
Yeah, I know about that, Johnny.
You have to have the time, and
we're not talking about that, Johnny. You didn't listen to what I said. The only person confused here was you.
Okay, you didn't really respond to Brian's rebuttal to what you'd said in terms of it not being easy to understand. You just went into elevation angles again, which is great. Thank you, Johnny. Okay, the other guy who wanted to know something about seasons.
I think that guy may have jumped out.
No, he's still in here, AJ. Wild man.
What's up?
Oh
yeah. How do seasons work on a flat Earth?
I didn't realize anybody had made a claim about this. Did anybody make a claim about this?
No, I was asking the question. How do seasons work on a flat Earth?
The sun causes them. The sun causes them. Why else do you think causes them?
That's the answer. The sun is moving.
It's the bit about on a flat Earth that I'm not really following. I mean, we track the elevation angles of the sun with respect to a plane. So, unless you know...
Exactly, but the elevation angles wouldn't cause seasons. That would cause different temperatures. Seasons are caused by the rotation.
I got that the first time.
1 second.
I got that the first time. I said I don't think anybody was making a claim about that.
Yeah, no one's making a claim.
But can you explain it to me? Or is that like something that is just unexplained in
you're
flat
just
Earth?
rumpusing this man. Let's try and get some order. Okay, did you have a claim about how seasons work?
I believe you mentioned
I'm a
rotation.
geocentric.
And now I'm hearing
I'm
somebody
a
else.
glober.
Jesus wept. So let's try that again. There's a guy in Discord who is talking. Does everyone recognise that? He's got a question about seasons. Now, I've dealt with the fact that we haven't made a claim about it. Now I'm saying to him, Do you have a claim about it?
I'm saying I wanted to see if the flat Earth community can explain seasons on a flat Earth model.
I don't have a flat Earth model. No one has a flat Earth model.
Limited on. We have a.
Hang on, Johnny, please.
Yeah,
Nobody has a flat Earth model. This is some straw man thing you've made up. There isn't even a globe model. Seasons are created by the sun cycle, the yearly path and changing positions of the sun in the sky throughout the year. That's what causes seasons. Whether on a flat plane or a globe, it's the same thing. Your question
so in
is
flat Earth, the sun rotates around the Earth.
Causes seasons. Hang on, you already know what causes seasons. The movement of the sun and the changing positions of the sun throughout a 12-month period. Why are you asking us such a stupid question?
But so I'm saying, does the sun rotate around the Earth, or does the Earth rotate around the sun?
Why would the Earth rotate around the sun?
Whether it's flat or not.
Do you feel yourself moving around the sun?
Thank you. How do you experience
That's
it?
what I'm saying. If the Earth is flat, for the seasons to work on a flat Earth, the Earth would have to rotate around the sun, even if it's a flat plane of existence.
Why would they have to do that?
It would still have to rotate around the sun in that elliptical orbit.
Okay. Elliptical? Where'd you get that
seasonal transition?
Why would they have to do that?
Guy, you've got to hold on, Brian. Hold on, Guy. We heard you about elliptical orbits. You've got to shut up at the end of your statement. Yeah, he's going to want to respond to you.
It wasn't done.
We heard his claim. We waffled on about elliptical orbits. That's a baseless claim at this point, isn't it? Now that's going to get. He's not going to get to scattergun with endless garbage. We heard him. Elliptical orbits, he said, on a flat plane. He said. Ahead. I heard. Brian's trying to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for a start, all right, elliptical orbits. Where you're getting that from is Kepler. Where did Kepler find out about what the sun is doing? Kepler was an astrologer. So all Kepler did was take the original sun cycle, which was a cycle involving a moving sun, right, changing its position over a 12-month period over a stationary flat plane. He took that and tried to amalgamate it into what they call the Copernican model. That's where you're getting the elliptical orbits from. This is some heliocentric nonsense.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's called the winter equinox. The winter solstice.
You're trying to crowbar into our reality. It doesn't exist in reality. This is mathematical heliocentric nonsense.
So the actual seasons that we talk about, like winter, summer, fall, June, those are actual orbital positions in the orbit around the Earth, around the sun.
God,
I'm speaking. Wait.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop Brian. I'm trying to stop Brian.
When we get to the summer
dude, I've got to stop the other guy from yammering through you. Brian, you've got to let him respond. You've got to let him get to his conclusion.
Okay, I apologize. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So yeah, that's what I was saying. When we get to the summer equinox, that's a set point in the orbit from Earth around the sun. When we get to the winter solstice, that's a set point in the Earth's orbit around the sun. Then I think it's called the June or something other one equinox as well. And then there's another solstice. These are set points around the sun in Earth's orbit that causes the change in seasons. We know this.
Okay. Stop. Everyone stop.
It's orbiting around the sun.
Dude. We know this is the conclusion. You don't need to keep going. Now, first, it means you didn't listen to what Brian just said about the origin of orbits. It's like you didn't listen to a single word he said, which is irritating. It's going to irritate him. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, you haven't listened to that, and I said, what you're talking about is the Kepler, right, version of how the sun cycle works. That would involve a globe Earth, right, making an offset elliptical orbit around the sun over a 12-month period, right? Where Kepler got the information he needed to mathematically amalgamate that information into the Copernican model, right? It's not even a model, right? He got it from astrology. Kepler was a master astrologer. And in astrology, right, back in his day, right, the Earth was seen as a stationary flat plane with moving celestials above it. So what you're asking me, where are you getting this? Where are you getting the seasons from? You need an offset elliptical orbit of right? No. Kepler got the original sun cycle from astrology. He was taught it via astrology. He was a master astrologer. So was Tycho Brahe and Galileo Galilei and loads of people before Kepler. All through the generations, they were master astrologers. They all dealt with Earth as a flat plane with moving celestials. So how does the sun do what it does? I don't know. Don't know what it is. Don't know how it does.
Okay. Stop a sec. I've got to shout out Uncle Ben. He says you've got some serious smart people in the server today. Thank you very much for the super chat, Uncle Ben.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Sorry.
I'm done.
So I don't know all those things. All I know is the sun, right, appears to move around in the sky, and we get seasons. That's it. That's all you can. That's all you can do. All I can do is take elevation angles to the sun, and it points over a flat plane. That's all I can do.
So,
that's all you can do.
If you check side chat, I posted what I was talking about by winter solstice. It's a set point in the orbit around the sun. The equinox, it's a set point around the sun.
And he claimed to be a geocentric.
It's not a set point around the sun. It's a set point throughout the year. It's a position of the sun in the sky throughout the year. That's what it is. Not a set point of us around the sun. You're pre-assuming that we're moving. That's what that is. That's all it is. If you were moving, your inner ear would let you know because it's designed to feel changes in acceleration. Now, we're claimed to be on a rotating body, right, which is a constant change in acceleration, and we're claimed to be making an offset elliptical orbit of the sun, right? That's two, right, constant changes in acceleration. If that was happening, have no doubt, buddy, you would know it.
So is he a geocentric or not?
What I was trying to describe to you is that the winter solstice happens at the same point, the same orbit, in the same time every year.
Hold on, Brian.
Because
Brian, I know he's repeating it, and I know you've addressed it. He wants to rinse and repeat, but if you're talking through him rinsing and repeating, you're seen as unreasonable. Yeah, we get it. We heard it once. Do you want to repeat it again, my friend? He's already responded to this, by the way.
I don't think we need to hear it again, do we, Nathan?
Well, I'm asking him. I'm asking him. Just do you need to rinse and repeat this again? It's again like you've just completely ignored what he's responded to
hey,
twice.
Can you stop over moderating me and let me actually debate him? Because this was actually a debate, not for you can keep muting me and he can keep speaking for 30 minutes.
Bless.
Okay.
Do you feel hard done by? Do you feel hard done by? Because he's addressed you and you've ignored him twice. Do you feel like you're not getting a fair debate? Over-moderated, you say? No, you're a dumbass. You're not listening to him. Now just chastise you for your stupidity. You stupid man, try to listen to what he says. Then you won't get called stupid for ignoring him twice. Do you feel over-moderated? Because now I'm just insulting you for being stupid. With a demonstration of it that's come twice prior to your ignorance and inability to listen. Do you want to conclude, Brian, given that you've already succinctly summarised this point and then he's ignored it twice? I think it's only reasonable that you summarise it because it's almost like you didn't say it given he ignored it twice.
Yeah, I will conclude. Kepler's claimed analemma is just a hijacking of the original sun cycle that he got from astrology. And that's based on a massive stationary flat plane, the one they use when they're referring to things in astronomy at vernal equinox and moving celestials. That same thing they're referring to at vernal equinox in astronomy, mainstream astronomy, right? Kepler got that sun cycle from a stationary flat plane with moving celestial bodies. It was detailed for God knows how long before, thousands of years before him, right? It's been around. He took it, he mathematically amalgamated it with what they call the Copernican model, which is not a model, right? And ended up with a 23.4 degree tilt of a globe out that makes an offset elliptical orbit of the sun once a year and rotates once a day in sidereal time, right? But when it comes to actually referencing anything to do with the celestial bodies in astronomy, they must place you, right, at the equatorial plane of that globe at vernal equinox, which mathematically negates the 23.4 degree tilt, and then extends that plane out into the celestial plane, making a much huger, flat, stationary plane, and then they pre-assume that the celestial bodies are moving, and they do the exact same thing in celestial navigation. Right? So this thing about this man thinks he has an argument concerning Kepler's Annalena. He doesn't even know. He can't even tell me what the right names on the for the equinoxes and for dates and for the equinoxes and the solstice, the two solstices. He can't. Like he wants to argue about something he has basically no research done on. I did a whole presentation on this back in 2017.
Before you elaborate too much, yes, we got it. Thank you for the conclusion. Very good. Yes, and absolutely.
Well, I thought you wanted me to over elaborate.
Not over elaborate on when you did your presentations previously and how many times you've gone through it, but everything else perfect. Thank you so much.
Right, just a point of moderation, guys. I just want to say to Wildman first before he answers anything. Wildman, you are muted twice so that Nathan could actually correct his own people for speaking over you. Yeah. The third time you were muted is because you're repeating the same thing over and over again. We understand the claim of the seasons and the equinoxes, etc. You need to address Brian's argument. If you rinse and repeat again, you will be muted again.
So Brian never made any argument to explain it on a flat Earth model. I made a better argument to explain it on a flat Earth model.
Hold on, Brian. Hold on.
Do not interrupt me. I'm being interrupted, moderator. I'm being interrupted. I said that the winter solstice and the summer solstice are set fixed points in space and time around Earth's orbit around the sun. So if the Earth was flat, winter would happen where the winter solstice was, and summer would happen where the summer solstice was, and that would mean that the flat plane of existence that you guys say exists would still have to orbit around the sun in those fixed set points in time and space. That's what I was trying to make an understanding. He didn't even understand the question.
Thank you, Brian.
Anything that I was
okay, guys, I just need to get a bit of control. Thank you so much, Brian. And what was your name again, sir? What was your name?
It's Wildman.
Wildman.
Wildman 420.
Thank you, Wildman. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so your summary in the face of his conclusion was to say he didn't address a flat plane. He very specifically referenced the flat plane of the equatorial plane and extended celestial plane used by Kepler. He detailed them explicitly 3 times. So, sir, in light of what, I already said, are you over moderating me, asshole? Shut your dumbass mouth. You ignored him, you dumb fuck. Now you can sit down and be berated by me. You stupid idiot who can't listen. He absolutely referenced a flat plane. He did it 3 times. You're just too stupid to listen. Now you're getting told off by me for your stupidity, not by Brian, so that he has to seem like he's what, quote-unquote, unreasonable, over-moderating. No, you're just stupid and deaf. Next time, try and listen. Kepler specifically references a flat plane. He detailed it to you 3 times. You're just a moron who can't listen. You rinsing and repeating it again like you got some argument doesn't wash. Okay, dumbass? Now we're done with you. I was willing to be polite with you till you started yakking through me. No, you've not earned that privilege, unlike Brian, who absolutely has. And I tentatively tell him to shut up while you rinse and repeat after being told by a moderator not to do that. You're just a dumbass. Now I'm going to berate you. I'm going to tear a strip off you for being stupid and incapable of listening to the man. Yes, he did reference a flat plane. He specifically referenced it. He told you where the origin of your argument needed it. You're just too stupid to comprehend it. Now piss off.
That is Dunning-Kruger at its height.
Well, seeing as he said that his question wasn't answered, I was going to ask him to actually steelman Brian. See if he actually listened to a word that was said, or if he was just waiting to rinse and repeat.
I did, AJ.
Over and over and over. It's all you did.
Let's see if he can steelman it. What did Brian have to say to you, Wildman? What was his rebuttal?
He started out comparing my...
Wildman?
Unless he's getting an opportunity to rinse and repeat.
You can't do it?
He can't do it. We already know that. I summarised it and shouted at him for it. He hasn't listened. Chances of him summarising Brian's position are 0.
John has not done it because there is no uniform.
I
And
didn't
now he's
ask
just
for whether
ranting,
Brian
isn't
had
he?
done anything. I asked for you to steel man his position, yeah? Tell us what he said.
His position falls apart because that's not how
See, can't do
I
it.
didn't ask if his position fell apart. I asked what he said.
and that's a
AJ, he
fallacy.
doesn't
That's
even know
that's
it.
pretty.
He's just ranting. He's not listening to AJ. He's not taking moderation. He's completely belligerent. He's in his own little chanting rage of, I've got to get this straw man out a million times. No, mate, you're done. You cooked. You didn't listen. You're incapable of doing so. You're probably not listening to me now while you're on server mute. Not me putting you on server mute. The moderators, because you've lost control now. You can't control yourself anymore. So goodbye.
Yeah, AJ, the thing about it is that he doesn't even know his own position. That's the problem. He didn't listen to a word, and everyone knew it. But what just did there was right, because that was the right thing to do. Like, because then you find out if someone was listening or not. He's not interested in hearing about how seasons work. Seasons, right, what causes seasons? The yearly path of the sun. That's all we know. Do you know anything more about it than that? No. You could go into a global heliocentric story involving Kepler, but it doesn't mean anything because it's all based off a flat stationary plane where we're looking up at an object or whatever it is, doing something throughout a 12-month period, and we don't know how it does what it does. End of story. It's a stupid question that he's trying to create a straw man out of. He doesn't know his own position. He doesn't know anything about Kepler's analemma or astronomy based around heliocentrism. He's just an ignoramus who wants to just waffle on.
But I'm more than content for you to waffle through how, not waffle, so it's because you use just that word for him, non-derogatory, for you to talk about how Kepler uses a flat plane. All roads lead to a flat Earth. The fact that he can't tolerate hearing that and literally asserted, well, you've never even mentioned how a flat plane works with this. You repeatedly pointed out the genesis of his orbital claim with Kepler and the flat plane it utilises. In the first instance, its genesis. Did he hear a word of it? No. Of course not. Well, his argument falls apart. He didn't give you an argument. He told you the origins of Keplerian flat planes. That's not an argument. That's a statement of fact. One that he didn't know, but he sees it as an argument that fell apart. Too dumb to even recognise when he's just having details put to him. What was your argument, Brian? He didn't have one. Just put a point to him that overcame his inference of a reifiable heliocentric globe Earth that's derived from the flat plane facts that Brian detailed to him. He didn't give him an argument. He just told him where his origins of a flat plane in his argument were. That's all he did. That's all our Brian did.
Yeah, I could have been really
when these
smart
guys
with him.
claim that there's nothing presented, I was just saying, when these guys claim there's nothing presented, I know they haven't listened, so I just like to ask them what's been presented for the audience's sake, so the audience can see that when they make these claims that something wasn't presented, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know what was presented because they just didn't listen.
Exactly. I mean, I was actually trying to be fair with him at the start, although I knew he was probably going to be that type of a person. Like, I could have got smart with him and asked him some simple questions about it and made him look bad. I could have done that because I have that information. But I don't need to do that. I'm not here to try and make people look stupid. But he did that himself. He made himself look stupid.
And I don't mind telling them off. So at the end, right, I've not got involved, although he's, for whatever reason, decided to criticise me for stopping you interrupting him over whatever. It's like, at the end, I'm willing to say, all right, well, that's been drawn to a conclusion. Excellent. But in his mind, because he hasn't listened, no, it hasn't been drawn to a conclusion. You're like, no, you don't recognise the conclusion's been drawn because you haven't listened. But he's going to chant through me trying to thank him for participating. So he's going to yammer through me. At which point you're like, no, so you're not listening to me and recognise that I'm going, thank you for trying. We'll be polite in your departure now. No, instead I have to be interrupted and then berate and chastise him. Like, no, you're not going to talk through me. I'm hosting a frigging show. Now, I can, at first, do the polite thing until you yammer through me because you've decided it's not concluded and therefore the host of this show has no respect owing. Now, I've given you a platform. There's 100 people listening to you, total wanker. I'm thanking you for being here, and what are you doing? Talking through me as I do so. So you're going to get chastised. Rightly so.
Plus,
Yeah, exactly.
Nathan, sorry, Brian. I'm just saying, he's talking about the winter solstice, which is when the sun's in the Tropic of Capricorn, and that Tropic of Capricorn can be found at approximately 23.5 degrees latitude, which is actually a flat Earth elevation angle measurement of Earth.
Like the ones I'm sorry, Brian. Like the ones that Brian concisely summarised 3 times that Kepler used.
That's correct.
Listen, he didn't even know what the first part of what you just said there concerning the Tropic of Capricorn and the date you gave. He didn't even know that. Well, why would you be? What is the point if this guy is listening? What is the point in making an argument where you don't even have any of the basic details of it? What's the point? You can't argue that point because even if you have a point to be made, your lack of understanding of the thing you're arguing against won't, will be shown up before anyone here has any point you have to be made.
Dunning-Kruger much?
You have to learn these things first. Go on.
It's Dunning-Kruger, isn't it?
Yeah, I know everything, but I don't know any very basic things to do with the claim. I mean, very basic things like the 2 tropics, the equator, the equinoxes, the solstices, the dates. Like that's the most basic part. And then the next most basic part will be the 23.4 degree tilt, and then the distances, the claimed distances from their sun throughout a 12-month period changes and blah blah blah. But it starts with basic things like the solstices, the equinox, what dates they are. Do you know what I mean? All these things, and you don't even have that much. How are you going to make any argument if you don't have the basics? You're too lazy to learn basic things. Go on, Neil.
He's not listening to you, and it's Dunning-Kruger. I said that. He thinks he's got the answers.
Yeah, but it's crazy how someone. For me, it makes no sense how you can start arguing about something when you don't even have basic things. I mean, you can ask about it, but to have an argument about it makes no sense because you don't know about it yet. How can you how can you argue a point concerning it if you don't even know about it?
I try and give that, don't I? I'll go ahead, whoever that is from Discord. Go ahead.
That was me. You point out the fact that he's a liar at this point. He claimed to be a geocentrist to elbow his way into the conversation, and when he got flat smacked, he experienced a downward spiral and started complaining about being muted for being unreasonable. That's what happened.
Yeah, it's a downward spiral we watch frequently.
Really, what's going on there is, and to be honest with you, I heard it when he first heard him come in, is that he has panic in his voice. He's not speaking calmly. He's creating disorder because he is going through turmoil inside his own head because he can't take it that we exist and that this topic exists and that he can't take it how badly his side is losing.
I try and
heed. They've lost, not losing. It's over.
I try and heed our own side when we're here and various other places talking about this subject. I'll try and put it into 2 different categories, which is to say, there's a category of people that may come to the Flat Earth Debate Show or Nathan Oakley 1980 channel and say, I just want to know how Earth's flat. Not because I want to go and challenge other people, but just because I want to know the score. What is the score here? Is Earth flat or not? And then you find out how it's measured. Matter. And you can get on with your day. You find out Earth's measured flat and always was. That's how the globe was created. And you can just get on with your day. If you're that guy, don't then take that understanding and turn it into a debate with some fundamentalist religious zealot on the globe. Because number one, you'll make yourself look really stupid if you try and unpack any of their arguments because you don't know them. So I would try and say to that person, get up, go about your day, but don't go out debating people about this. If you do want to go out and debate, you need to learn every single argument that the globe could possibly ever throw at you.
Prepared.
Go ahead, whoever that was.
I'm listening to you, Nathan.
I think there's somebody who wanted to get a word in from Discord. Go ahead, whoever that was. There's someone from Discord that wanted to get a point in. We'll be rounding out the live show shortly, so this is probably your last opportunity if you did. Eh? I could have swore I saw the line dance, so I know someone from Discord said something.
I heard somebody twice saying something, but I'm not hearing that now. Yeah, no, I understand. But see, what you're detailing, Nathan, is the guy that came in there, the wild man guy. He's that version. He's that only on the opposite side.
Yes.
He was coming in and want to have a debate, but he doesn't know basic things of he doesn't know the basics of his own claim. You know what I mean? Of his own side. It's like you have to at least know the basics of your own side before you, and know the basics of the other side before you can even start conversating about it. You can't debate on something. You can conversate about something you don't know about, but you can't debate about it.
Right.
If you don't know about it.
Do you remember Earth discussions about 10 years ago with Rumpus and the guy with the Labrador on his thing? Do you remember that panel? It had about 2-3 people watching. You may not have ever seen it. Do you remember it?
I remember the name. Yeah, I do remember the name. Yeah.
ED and ED 2.0. Anyway, 10 years ago, I saw that discussion, and I was, fairly staunch heliocentrist who thought I knew the rhetoric reasonably well, and then became a flat earther. And I come across this discussion platform with more people on the panel than there are watching, talking at a much higher level of heliocentrism than I appreciated. Suddenly, I'm sitting back going, bloody hell, they know a lot more about this than I do. Now, you might think, well, I'll just test my strength, like on a strengthometer, by going in as a newly fledged, badged-up flat earther. Well, no, you should know better. I knew better. Don't go in. They'll hand you your ass. Not because I'm not right, but because I'm ignorant of their arguments. Now, at that point, I was also ignorant of my own arguments. I was new. But it doesn't make any difference which side of the argument you're on. If you suddenly find out that there's flat earthers out there and you go, I'm going to go in and tell them they're stupid. Oh, do you know your own argument really well? Because if not, what the hell are you doing? You're going to get your ass handed to you. All right, we've got time for one last question from Discord. Then we're going to be rounding out, doing a bit of an after show maybe in the same panel, but ultimately you're not going to have 100 people listening to what you've got to say. If you've got a question, now's the time to ask it. Over to you, AJ, to encourage your...
Nathan, do you believe there is such thing as a perfect circle? Do perfect circles
circle
exist somewhere in the ever-expanding universe?
In a natural form? Are you asking, is there a perfectly formed natural circle somewhere? I don't doubt it. Why would you ask that? A very interesting question. I'm bemused as to why me asking.
I ask everyone that question. I'm surprised you said yes. Now, what about mathematically? Does such a thing as a perfect circle exist?
Absolutely, without question. But why are you asking?
Every person that believes in the oblate spheroid-shaped Earth also believes in the magical perfect circle.
Yeah, the maths requires it. If you're going to derive a measuring tool that is a perfect circle, like a protractor or a sextant, and infer that the surface is that measuring tool, then to all intents and purposes, it must be perfect.
Okay.
I got a question. How does Jesus work on a flat Earth?
How does Jesus work?
How do seasons work on a flat Earth? Tell me now.
Oh, seasons. How do seasons work? Hey, 10th.
Hey, 10th.
You tell me now, Nathan Oakley.
But they do what they do. Every reference or measurement to anything to do with seasons or seasonality will always be with respect to a flat plane. So when you say how do they work, look up how anything works ever. It'll all have its genesis in for flat plane. So it seems like a stupid question. Hey, 10th, sorry to talk over you as you figured out your mic. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My mic wasn't on. How's everyone doing?
Very, very well. We're about to round out a live show. We frequent the Discord server known as Politics on a Friday to spread the good word of Earth being measured flat.
Yeah, I was catching some of it. Why did everyone miss the point Brian made at the very start, I believe? Everything is referenced in navigation to 0 to 90 and perpendicular. And since you can't have 0 to 90 or perpendicular on the surface of a paradigm of a sphere, because it's always curving away from you, what did they reference? And Brian told everybody what they referenced. the equatorial plane, which is a straight angle, 180 degrees. So it doesn't matter what they say when they use the Haversine formula and what they have to do in post-production with so-called spherical trigonometry to put you on the arc of a protractor. Doesn't matter what they do afterwards to change the initial elevation angle, which is referenced to a 180 plane. The ball game is over right there, because the site reduction tables, and Brian has said this as well, put you right at the surface of the ocean with the sextant, and you don't have to do dip, you don't have to do refraction, you don't do anything. It's all 180 plane. They have nothing, because this is all from their own books. The initial reference is a flat Earth. After that, they get you believing you live on a sphere. So who cares how the seasons work? It must work on a flat Earth, and it's so obvious the sun is moving, not the Earth. This guy who just came in, he's under the delusion that orbit is real, begging the question, and he's basing his question and putting in all his poker chips on orbits being real. He has no clue.
Yeah, orbits are derived from a flat plane. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
If you know what I mean, it's like there's no argument when it's.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. What he's trying to promote in the way I came in at the end does exist, but it's the equatorial plane that he's referencing that he doesn't even realize, because everything they got is based on that as the baseline reference for everything.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. That's what Kepler would have used for that. Like, I mean, well, it was post Kepler, let's just say, that they started placing a globe around that plane. Before that, that's why it was around, it would have been post Kepler, that they needed to make that the equatorial plane and then extend it out into the celestial plane, make all that stationary and the celestial moving above it. That is them referencing reality. It was Kepler, from everything I can gather, it's Kepler who came up with the globe, right? And everything that, so Kepler was probably the originator of that claim where that you place yourself as equatorial plane, apparently equinox.
I said that it was about 300 years ago with reference to Kepler, and everyone says, no.
No, you said Copernicus.
Did I say Copernicus?
You keep saying Copernicus when you should be saying Kepler at times.
It really...
Copernicus, it's Kepler.
It really doesn't matter to be that thorough who did it. You just got to explain with the current information that's out there, it's how they did it is more important than who did it and when they did it. So it's always been a flat 180 straight angle plane, always, because that's the surface of Earth. They just took it down to a presumptive sphere and put it in the middle and call it the equator, which is really the surface of the Earth. Then they said, well, we believe we're on a sphere, so we got to convert this 180 plane, which must match what the Mariner sextant is using the horizon for, because that's the limitation of his eyes, is where the clouds meet the sea, apparently, and we know they don't, because it's 10,000 feet above the sea. It just looks like they're touching, just like when you bring the sun or star and rock the sextant using the horizontal reference at sea. So if that local horizon, which is how they like to refer to it, because they're saying it's a tangent point, and that's your local flat area. And if it curves after that, you can never use the equatorial plane as the main reference, because the equatorial plane doesn't curve.
I was going to say, but they're not doing it in that way. So when the anti-flatties start talking about referencing tangential planes, it's like, no, what they're justifying with the parallel light moved into hell is an afterthought. The way it all functions, if you ever look at any... I did it the other day, I can't remember what the example was, but I was showing Brian some example from heliocentrism where all of the angle descriptions albeit in a very large scale. So Earth is like a tiny little 2mm dot, but it makes no difference. The angles are still coming from hell. Now, in that way, you've got your Keplerian equatorial plane with a globe Earth wrapped around it, self-contained. It just doesn't function beyond the parameters of any of the stars that could actually be utilized practically in that paradigm, let's call it. So it doesn't alter what Brian's trying to suggest to the opponent today, for example. Now, I'm getting somewhere with this. When Brian's describing that flat plane that you've just described, 10th, that is to say, you're in the middle of it and you're describing the extended celestial plane, a massive plane with all of these angles to stars wrapped around it and a system of circles that you could put at your feet. And then we understand that you've got a globe wrapped around that. Yeah? When Brian describes it from that conceptual standpoint, his opponent literally cannot comprehend it in the way that Brian's describing it, even though he's telling him it's flat planes and how it would match the two systems up at the vernal equinox, for example. So he's going into extra detail, but all of which is being described from a conceptual standpoint where you're inside the protractor he thinks is the globe. He can't conceptualize it in the way it actually functions. No one can, even though it's shown them that way. If you show any orbital motion, the asymptotically flat plane that is used to describe it all has a bifurcation of Earth at whatever point it is in its orbital motion. In other words, you're still dependent on it having an equatorial plane through the center of Earth, a flat plane in hell, at any scale for any description always for orbits. Now, Brian knows this and can concisely summarize it. The guy, like I've said 3 times, so I won't say it again, he cannot even comprehend it in that way, even though that's how it's functioning.
I'm not too worried about a glober not understanding it, especially this guy who came on. That's not the reason I say that, because they're still stuck in that paradigm that we live on a sphere. What I'm trying to do, and what we've done, and what Brian was doing, was showing them that the baseline reference for everything requires a 180 plane, not a point in the center of Earth, but a plane. And every subsequent elevation angle measurement, whether done with a bubble sextant at 30,000 feet, which uses a spirit level and creates a fictitious horizontal, well, that horizontal used by the bubble sextant is now the plane for that elevation angle at 30,000 feet. Well, that elevation angle at 30,000 feet is using an infinite, no such thing, but an infinite plane to create the elevation angle above it. So if you're a mariner at sea, you're not using a bubble sextant because the boat is rocking. So the only thing horizontal in the middle of the ocean is the horizon. So you use the horizon to create that same reference plane. And if you go to all their books, both those have to match their paradigm of a sphere Earth cut in half. And when you cut that non-existent sphere Earth in half, you don't have any curves. You have 180 plane. There's no account for curvature, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's post-production through a spherical trig and the Haversine formula to put you on the arc of your vision, which is the protractor.
Right.
Yeah,
Before I get
I know.
into this, right, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to the Politics Discord server because we're going to be toddling along now. Thank you so much for having us. Hopefully we'll be welcomed back next week.
No problem.
Oh my
Everyone, thanks,
goodness,
AJ.
my
for
goodness,
coming.
Nathan.
Go ahead, AJ.
Saying no problem. Glad to have you here. Hope to see you next week.
Cool. We'll toddle along to Flat Earth Debate Discord server if anyone fancies following us. But in the meantime, thank you so much for having us in the Politics Discord server as ever. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you, AJ. Yeah,
Yeah,
just some more time to saying. Sorry, just some more time to saying. Yeah, what they're doing is they're pre-assuming the sky is domed to create this spherical non-triangle, right, which is just the intersection of 3 circles. right, within their pre-assumed curved sky, and they're back projecting that onto the surface of this globe that's in between you on the flat plane and their mathematical pre-assumption of a curved sky, which is just comes from an orthographic representation of your actual perspective view, right? That's what the celestial dome is. And all that is happening, but it's all happening if you, the genesis of it, as Kent pointed out and has pointed out before, it all starts and ends at the vernal equinox. Why are they extending the plane, their equatorial plane, out into the celestial plane? Because their equatorial plane only has a radius within their paradigm of 3,959 statute miles. But that's not 5,400 nautical miles, is it? They need to extend that, don't they? Right? If you're talking about, even if someone talking about nautical miles, 3,959 is only like 3,440 or something like that, or 3,439 nautical miles. So that's not 5,400. So even just to do what they have to do and take angles, they're going to often have a greater radius. The angle they take will create a radius that's greater than their equatorial plane will allow. So even if they stood at the North Pole, their North Pole on the equatorial plane, below the North Pole, and took an angle, they still wouldn't have enough with 3,440. That's why they must extend it out into their celestial plane. But then they make it stationary as well, right? Like they've been doing in astronomy. They've been doing in astronomy since Kepler, because that's what Kepler used, was a massive stationary plane with moving celestial bodies. And they're doing it in celestial navigation and astronomy ever since. That's what's going on. It's Kepler's poison being inserted into astronomy and celestial navigation. But what did they do? What did they have to do at first? They must reference a massive stationary plane with moving celestial bodies, because that's the only way it works.
Now that is so precise and another death nail. And Brian just articulated it so well. 0 to 90 times 60 nautical miles. All right. So 90 times 60. Obviously, no one does that, because when you get 10, 15 degrees above the horizon, you got lots of compression going on. And so they say always take your celestial sights above 15, sometimes even 20 degrees above the horizon. So you're not going to shoot a star right on the horizon. You're going to shoot a star with your sextant maybe 15, 20 degrees above. But mathematically, 90 times 60 is 5,400 nautical miles, which means a shared baseline, which means the star or sun's GP is sharing the same 180 baseline of that 5,400 nautical miles with the observer holding the sextant. His or her zenith position is not diverging from the sun's 90-degree position over the Earth, 5,400 nautical miles away, but parallel to it. However, as Brian has pointed out, if any point on their sphere globe paradigm, I can't even call it a model, is 3959 from the center to the surface, you just lost the war, because it's 5,400 nautical miles that it can work with. But your Earth ends at 3959 physicality, which doesn't exist to begin with because we're not in a sphere. You see the problem there.
Yeah, exactly. If you're at 45 degrees latitude, right, and you're taking an angle to a celestial body that's further than the equator, right? How are you going to use the globe's equatorial plane as your flat plane that you're going to claim that your massive tangent plane is parallel to? How are you going to claim that and use that when that's going to end at 2,700 for you in nautical miles, isn't it?
And I've got news for them.
What am I saying? It's going to end less than that, because if you put a straight line down to how much nautical miles would be left on the equatorial plane from that point, you'd have less than 2,700. Sorry, I'm incorrect there.
Well, hang on. The point that we're both trying to make is simple. In the circle of equal altitude, it's the radius line from the circle of equal altitude is that 5,400 nautical miles. that's flat with the observer zenith and the star's GP at 90 times 60. So we know that. Now, the Earth, as looked upon by them as a sphere, has a radius from the center. Just think of their Earth as a big circle of equal altitude and two-dimensional. You go to the middle of their Earth, sphere Earth, and go, what's the radius from the middle? It's 3959. However, in actual measurements with a sextant and elevation angles, the radius line is 5,400 nautical miles and no radius line ever bends. But that's just one direction. An observer on the opposite side of that circle having the same 90 degree to that star is another 5,400. So that's 10,800 nautical miles of flat plane surface that must be utilized for the whole system of elevation angles, sextants, and 60 nautical miles all to work out. And yet they're on a small sphere with 3959, which isn't even real. It falls apart just in that explanation. Their whole sphere model falls apart.
Yeah, I know that's the thing about it. Look, this is the thing, right? Their equatorial plane in right, their 3959 works out at about 3440, so 3,440, I think it is, or 3,439 nautical miles. If you want to do, if you pre-assume the conversion is right, then being the statute and nautical, then that's what it works out at. But either way, that's what it is, because that's what they needed to use to create their globe, blah blah blah. But
well, the extension that you're talking about, the extension in which you're talking about, which is fictitious celestial equator, the equinoctial. The equinoctial is where the Earth's distance physically ends and meets the celestial equator in space to create one big plane all the way to this infinite stars that is placed on the celestial sphere model. So the whole point that they have to extend one whole plane that's in their model is real, the Earth cut in half, but it's got to keep extending. So they put another plane, and that point is called the equinoctial, and it creates the celestial equator meets the equatorial plane to create one big plane. All the stars that are below this plane of reference can never be seen. Only when they're above it, 0 to 90 and back to 180. So here we go. In the morning, as the sun is coming at you, it's at 0. At noon, it's at your 90, your zenith. And at when it goes away from you and becomes night, it's at your 180. So there it is. That is how they do everything, except they run out of terra firma because they're 3959. But 90 times 60 is 5,400 nautical miles, but you got to times it twice because you started from the east, went to noon, went to west. So it's 10,800 nautical miles journey.
Exactly. Because their equatorial plane has a radius of 3,440 nautical miles, right? Whereas you require 10,800 because you're using a 180, or at least 5,400 in any one time.
0 to 90, it's 5,400.
Yeah, exactly. But their equatorial plane in nautical miles is 3,440 via the current conversion, right? Right. So no matter what way you work it, even if you stood directly below their North Pole on their equatorial plane, right, and you took an angle that worked out to be, let's say your angle was 20 degrees or 15 degrees, then what's going to happen is, or even 25 degrees, you're going to end up running out of, as you say, terra firma, because you don't have any more surface, because it stops at 3,440 for you. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't go to 5,400, and it certainly doesn't go to 10,800. Exactly. Because it's 5,400 in front of you and behind you, or like it has to be 5,400 basically in front of you and behind you in the 360 degrees, because you don't know what direction you're going to have to turn. Do you know what I mean? So there's just no way for it to work.
Yeah,
you know,
in a debate, you could even switch it around and say, let's assume that we're using the zenith of the observer in the middle of a circle of equal altitude. So the observer's position is the center of that circle. Now, that observer with a sextant in the middle of that circle would dictate how big and large that circle must be. And how does he do that? Well, he or she does that with a sextant, 0 to 90, and then 90 to 180. So there you go. It's 10,800 nautical miles of flat shared baseline if the observer is treated as the GP in the center of a circle of equal altitude with his zenith position.
Yeah, it does. Like, I totally understand why they must do what they do with the at vernal equinox. I totally get that. They have no choice.
They don't.
And that all started from Kepler, because Kepler, from what I can gather, the globe came from Kepler. Because if you look into a geocentric globe, which would be what you would have to have prior to Kepler, then it's not workable. You can't have a geocentric globe. If you try and make it all work, it's even just the solar system won't work. Their solar system won't work.
No, but
yeah.
You're right. Let me add on to that. Another death nail, if they want to argue the point we just proved with actual measurements. Okay, so we didn't prove a point with theory in the colloquial sense. We didn't need to do anything but just use measurements to prove what we just said. And it's the same measurements they have to go by. But the killer is when you read in the manuals and says, we must assume at the vernal equinox that the Earth is stationary and the stars are moving overhead. And when you say, why do you do that? When you delve into it, you know how they respond to it? They go, well, it's a simplified manner. No, it's the only way.
Exactly. When that guy was telling you, the celestial navigation guy, when he was answering your questions and saying, yeah, well, we just presume that the celestial bodies are moving and we're stationary when we're doing what we're doing in celestial navigation because it's easier. No, it's like that can't work and be on a globe, because the only way a globe can work is in a heliocentric situation where you're moving and the celestial bodies, with the exception of the moon, is stationary. That's the only way right? So if they're placing them stationary and the celestial bodies moving, then that means that what they're actually claiming outside of that is completely irrelevant and unworkable. Because there's no way that you can treat the sky as moving and still believe somehow that you're on it. Well, you can believe it, but somehow amalgamate it into a globe correctly, it can't. The only way that celestial bodies can be stationary is if the Earth is a stationary plane. Is if the Earth is moving. Sorry, is if the Earth is a stationary plane. They can't. That does not work with a stationary globe. Geocentric globe, it doesn't work. It only works with their situation. Only works with a heliocentric rotating globe. It doesn't work with a stationary globe. And they have people fooled into believing that there was such a thing as a geocentric globe prior to. You have people like Robert Sungenis, who's promoting this geocentric globe for years, not realizing that he's actually promoting a flat plane.
When this guy came on today with his presumption of orbits, he lost the argument the minute he said it, because all the books say you got to reference the vernal equinox for the motion of the stars and their positioning. The EQ Mount telescope agrees with this, the way it works, because we've shown the reference where you can be in LA or New York or Munich, Germany, and with one coordinate system, as long as your equatorial Mount telescope is level, no matter what latitude you're on, you can all just punch in the one coordinate system, and from LA, New York, and Munich, Germany, see the same stars at the same coordinate numbers. Well, that can't happen unless the vernal equinox serves as a purpose where the Earth is no more tilt, negating the tilt of the Earth. The Earth is flat and stationary, and the stars are considered moving. And then when you drill them on it, They go, well, that's just because it's a simpler way to do it. I go, oh, so you got to go back to flat Earth and stationary Earth and the stars moving, the opposite of your claim, to make it all work.
Yeah, even the term equatorial mount. Why is it called an equatorial mount? Because it uses the equatorial plane.
Yes.
It doesn't sit on the side of a globe. Yeah.
And what is that? That's a straight 180 angle. And so when they say, oh, no, with the sextant, when we do the horizon, that's a local horizon, just as far as you can see, it's locally flat. You say, no, it must match the equatorial plane, which is 10,800 flat if you use 0 to 90 properly. But even if you don't use it properly, it's their 3944, whatever you said. It all must be flat to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Now, see, all the things that was claimed back in when I first turned up in this, and I'm sure the rest of you, all these claims that were made of these things that supposedly prove the globe, things like the equatorial mount and the sextant and all this other stuff, all these things prove a flat stationary plane. It's just that these people never understood what it was. You know, all these borders, they never actually understood what it was that they were referencing. You know what I mean? Like the equatorial mount. Okay, what a joke when you see that placed on the side of a cartoon sphere, you know, in a diagram. It's like, it can't work that way. It can only work from a flat stationary plane. It can't work from a rotating curved surface. That's the whole purpose of it. It can only work from a flat stationary plane. And it just happens to be the vernal equinox is when they place it at that flat stationary plane to increase the size of the plane because the plane is not big enough. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm liking what I'm hearing since you guys found the NTSB pitch data. I think that's what it's referenced to.
Yes. Yeah, there's just no way out of that. As Adam calls it, flawless victory. There's just no way around it. It is just, but you know what I mean? What we have now is what was expected. We all expected it. It's that and it's what, myself and QE and others, we spoke about it, and we agreed. Me and QE definitely agreed on it, that what this will show, and it's already showing, is just how bizarre our opposition are. If you look at their answers for what they're trying to say concerning what level and horizontal is, how they much warp and bend reality to try and keep themselves somehow on a globe. It's like up to now they were able to somewhat get away with that, but when it comes to the pitch data and airplane and air flight, they can't get away with it. There's absolutely nothing there to allow them to you know what I mean. So if they can, like before, when it comes to celestial navigation, for instance, they could bamboozle someone who doesn't know any difference with a lot of globe nonsense, and the person will go, well, I don't know much about this, and this person speaking, let's say someone like Prototad, they seem very knowledgeable, or even Mac Toon, to someone who doesn't know any different, they seem very knowledgeable, and the person walks away. Whereas when it comes to this, they're looking at the data, they're seeing how the plane flies, like what can Mac Toon or any of these people say to them? What, that horizontal is a curved line? Because that's actually what they have to say.
Well,
you know what I mean? Or,
the whole idea of how you presented the lift effect, that tells you the whole distance other than takeoff and descent is going to be level, because you got to have lift, or else the plane is going to start falling.
Well, yeah, I mean, even takeoff and landing is explained by lift effect, because that's all happening with an above horizontal pitch too. But you're saying during cruising altitude you're referring to.
No, I'm not saying. I'm talking about the part that the plane is level flight. It's not level when it's taking off. It's not level when it's descending. It's on an angle descending 30 minutes prior to landing, usually. Okay, very slow descent. Okay, so you got thrust, you've got lift effect, you've got angle of attack, you got all these different things. But when it's in between those two, takeoff and descent, it's a level flight. And imagine these trips that are 18 hours long, like LA to Australia or something like that, the majority of that time, the pitch data is going to show the same thing. It's not going down. It's not adjusting for curvature.
Well, it proves several things. It proves not that it should have had to have been proven, but it absolutely proves with example that horizontal is level, that level is horizontal. And it also proves that horizontal is always parallel to horizontal, as in you can have two different altitudes, but those horizontals are parallel to each other. They're not at different degrees. Yeah.
We've sunk into the level of the globe earthers who have escaped from Bellevue Mental Hospital. And we're allowing them to use horizontally in the wrong way. If we go there, we have to just say, no, you got to come up with a different word that explains constant correction for over a sphere in flight. You don't have that word. So you take the word that is there, horizontal, and say it doesn't mean horizontal. And I say, I'm done talking to you when you tell me horizontal doesn't mean horizontal anymore, because you're not part of the human race that's thinking. Because then 2 and 2 is not 4. These people are nuts.
Yeah, of course. I mean, anyone can look at the last couple of videos I have on my channel, because the last one's about level, and the two before that are there's the Ball Busters presentation and a response I made to the responses to that presentation. And it's like anyone can look at their comments in there, and they'll see the amount of contradiction and tomfoolery and reality bending going on. It's just the average person, the average person, as I said, would have been bamboozled by them and confused by them with something with celestial navigation, and they would have walked away, or even surveying, and they would have walked away going, I think they have a point. They seem to really know what they're talking about. But when it comes to this, the average person knows that level is horizontal and horizontal is level. They know what a shelf is. They know what leveling a shelf is. So if you're trying to tell them that, if you're trying to tell that person that shelf is curved, you know what I mean, and that level is curved, or whatever nonsense you're trying to come up with, right? That person, the everyday person, is going to go, no, you're just crazy. So until now, they've hid their craziness. Their craziness has been able to stay high, but I think when it comes to flight, they can't do that.
Well, even in celestial navigation, it's crazy because they want to consider locally level as a mirror on the disco ball Earth of theirs, that its local approximation is flat when you can't have any point higher than the other. So we know a sphere is always curving, it's not flat. So when they say, well, that's locally level, and I say, well, let me ask you something. This locally level, as you reference it, what is the baseline reference for this locally level? Is it not the equatorial plane? Yeah. Okay. Is the equatorial plane bending in any place, or is it a 180 plane? No, it's a 180 plane. All right. So you're going to reference your locally level, which is as far as your eye could see. And you're going to say, but we all have to base it on the equatorial plane, which is no matter how far you see, doesn't matter. It's all 180 straight angle. It's a plane. So just because you can't see beyond your limitation, if the Earth was curving away, then that means the equatorial plane cannot be the baseline reference because it doesn't curve. And number two, the angle that you took and the GP of the star in connection to the observer zenith, the accuracy would fall apart because you only had a portion that was flat and the rest curved away. You could never get your position correct or your distance correct. So you must reference the equatorial plane with the limitation of your eyes, which you like to call locally level, but in reality, it's all the way to the GP of the star to you.
Yeah, with a little bit of explaining to the average person, they can totally get the basics of celestial navigation and an elevation angle. Do you know what I mean? They can. It's like, the only thing about it is the ballers can try and confuse them. If the baller gets to them first, they can confuse them. That's all I'm saying about celestial navigation and maybe surveying and that. Whereas you can then, if you get to meet the person afterwards, you can explain where the baller was confusing them on purpose, right? But when it comes to this, with the pitch data, you just can't confuse them. It's like, no, it's a straight line. No, but it's actually curved. No, it's not. It's zero is horizontal. No, but it's that, you know what I mean? But these are all different curves and different horizontal. It's like, no. So the average person, like, it's like a child would laugh at him. A child would laugh at someone saying that. They think the person is trying to make them laugh.
Right.
Listen, I have to drop out for 20 minutes, but I'll be back in then. I'm sorry. I meant to drop out a while ago, but because you came in, I stayed on longer than I was going.
Well, it's all right. I have to get going too, but
I'll be back.
yeah, it's all
Good
right.
to talk to you, though. If I don't talk to you,
good talking to you. Good talking to you, Brian.
Bye.
Did everybody go?
No, it was too bad that Brian left because it was
Okay,
nice
so we're still
listening
on.
to
I
the
didn't know. I
conversation.
didn't know if we were still on. Sorry.
He just dropped by the looks of things. So
Oh no, he said he had to go. He'll be back in 20 minutes. I just didn't know if anybody else was hanging around.
Everyone's hanging around. There's about 25 people in the Discord server. And
Well,
there's
that's
6.
impossible because Brian and I were not interrupted for 20 minutes straight. That proved to me nobody was hanging around. What's going on?
Absolutely everybody in the Discord server was just listening intently.
That's a first timer.
Nah, don't be like that.
Yep. And
Are you kidding, Nathan? We overtalk each other all the time.
Not true at all. Go ahead, Flat Earther.
I resisted the temptation to interrupt, but I had a few questions in between, and I would like to take you back, 10th man, to the radius calculation of the Earth we were talking about. So we have a smaller globe radius, you were saying, which comes down to 3959 miles, but converting per degree to 1 degree to 69 miles or 60 nautical miles gives us a radius of 6215 miles or somewhere around 5400 nautical miles. That's what I heard, right? Am I correct all along?
No, I said Brian did the conversion. I didn't do any conversions. I said that you have a flat area of 10,800 nautical miles from 0 to 180, and zenith would be at your 90. So take the sun, starts at 0, goes to your 90, high noon, and then goes away from you at dusk at 180. So that's 10,800 nautical miles of flat surface. That's what I stated. And Brian was saying about the Earth's radius, and I jumped on this because he brought in the Earth's radius is 3959 from the center to the surface, okay, at any point. So according to them, it's 3959 miles at 0, sunrise for them. It's 3959 at noon. From that 0 to noon position, it's 3959 from the center to the point of the surface of their globe. And so, since there is no curved surface in celestial navigation, I brought in the fact that you'd have to have a plane 10,800 nautical miles of horizontal to even do celestial navigation. So, you can't have a local horizon and then it bends.
So how are you getting that number 10,800? It's twice of 5,400, which you get by multiplying 60 nautical miles to 90 degrees, right?
No, I'll tell you how I get it. I get it from their books. A circle of equal altitude is the GP of the star to the observer. Since the maximum altitude is 90 degrees, the observer is outside that circle and the star is at the center of that circle, and you have a radius line from that circle of equal altitude to the observer on the edge of that circle. But if you were simultaneously another observer on the Earth who's on the opposite side of that circle of equal altitude would also have the same angle measurement of 90 co-altitude. So that circle is really 10,800 nautical miles flat circle. It's just if you got a sextant, you're only measuring 5,400 nautical miles if it's 90 degree co-altitude measurement.
So going by that same logic, same calculations, if I am at the equator, which based on Polaris angle measurement calculations means that the Polaris star is going to be at my horizon, just barely visible at the horizon. And from there, we can come down to the calculations of per degree 60 nautical miles, and your elevation angle is 0, which means zenith angle is 90 degree. So 90 times 60 nautical miles is 5,400 miles. That means from
Nautical
your
miles, yes.
position on the equator to the GP of Polaris, it is 5,400 miles, nautical miles, which is 6215 miles.
I don't know about the conversion. All I'm saying to you is that all has to be one plane of reference, equatorial plane. The miles conversion has to be done to see what that is in nautical miles. And if you're doing it that way, that's fine too. It's just that they have to admit it's done on a 180 flat plane to even get it.
Yeah, I get that part. Now I'll contextualize this, why I'm talking about this. So, a flat earther from India has advised me to delve a bit deeper into celestial navigation and what points globers have to bring up in order to defend their position with, and there was nothing new in it. I have been talking about those same points for the past 2 years, and ever since Nathan Oakley is also talking about it on the flat earth debate panel. So this guy here is recommending me to learn a bit more, and he says that the Gleason's map, he goes by the Gleason's map, on which, if you do that same conversion from the GP of Polaris, which is the North Pole, basically, to the equator, the distance turns out to be 6 to 1, and
you broke up. You're breaking up.
Gleason's map is
You're breaking up.
Oh, was I? Was my point not clear?
It was something about the Gleason's map.
Okay, I'll repeat that. You can hear me now? All right?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, so the point is, if a flat earther who goes by the Gleason's map, in which the equatorial radius is bigger than what we have on the globe, the equatorial radius. So, if someone considers it to be the flat earth map, which is accurate in distance calculations, so is there something wrong in this kind of a claim?
I would never do any claims like that. And if there was a mistake in the conversion of nautical miles to actual miles with the radius of the Earth, it still doesn't matter. Here's why. There is no such thing as an equatorial plane to begin with. You have one flat Earth surface, which they have transposed into the center of a globe. There is no equatorial plane in reality. There's just a flat Earth because they must consider the vernal equinox date to map the stars. And the Earth is considered stationary, motionless, and the stars are moving. So even if you go back to the genesis of their argument, the whole Earth is one big plane. And to get angles to stars, the vernal equinox creates the 0 point. Okay, so that's very important because anything below that 0 point, you can't see those stars. Anything above that 0 point, you can see those stars. And then they say, yeah, the stars are moving in this version because in their version, the Earth is going around it. And right. And so it's like they go all back to the basis that Earth is one big plane and you need elevation angles to navigate it. And you got to treat the vernal equinox date as 0 point. And that becomes their equatorial plane in their transposing post-production globe model. But there's no such thing as an equatorial plane. I wouldn't even argue what map is true, what map is wrong. I would just say you need flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris to get your latitudes, and you need a baseline that's a 180 baseline for the surface of the Earth for all this to work. And that's in their own books. I could cite their own books when they reference the equatorial plane. They're the ones referencing the equatorial plane. We're not, because that's really the Earth.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been going on recently, but did you think that the Christians would have responded better to the whole elevation angle measurement in hell thing?
No, I don't, because I'm around a lot of Christians, being a Christian, and the indoctrination from the time that you're born to now, and all of the media and all of the co-conspirators that keep pushing this lie take all forms. And so you have all of a sudden a situation where you know somebody for, and I'll use my own situation. So I know somebody for over 40 plus years. Always had a good relationship. Everything's hunky-dory. All of a sudden they find out I'm a flat earther. And so what's wrong with you? I always thought you were smart. I always thought, now you sound arrogant because you're telling me these facts which I'm not familiar with, but then everybody else is wrong, but you're right. And so they get put in a paradigm of thinking the consensus view is the proper view since they've been hit with it since birth. And all of a sudden, because of the tramp stamp on all the videos and how they put us flat earthers into this little corner and say we're crazy. And, you know, when you have crazy ones out there like Flat Earth Dave, who can't even answer the question. I mean, what a joke. He's a true earther at the end of the day, whatever that means. And then you've got the Jarens and the Whitsits. And so we don't have a unified position when you throw in all the so-called flat earthers. So you got us, FED, and people who are attracted to the Nathan Oakley 1980 show is because we are so pedantic that we argue within ourselves all the time to get something right, and we make a mistake, we own up to it. It still doesn't change what the Earth is, even when we make a mistake. It's just, okay, I got that wrong. I was thinking this way, but it was that way. But that doesn't change because I'm going to their own books. I'm going to how navigation is done, how planes fly, all these different things to prove how they've done a number on all of humanity. And when you go to try to share this with them, all the crabs trying to pull that crab down from getting out of the barrel. They can't handle it. Too much.
Fair enough. I was actually referring to the Globy
Okay.
Christians, but there we go.
Well, the Globy Christians are the ones I'm talking about.
So I think it is
Hold on a second, 10th. Go ahead, Flat Arthur.
go. So I thought it was a good time for the
You're
next
breaking up
Do you
again.
want to drop and
see if
Flat
it's
Arthur? Do you want to? I don't know if you can hear me. Can you drop and rejoin? You're roboting really badly. We can't understand what you're saying. Hopefully you heard that.
You know, we're going to make mistakes, and they look, whenever you make a mistake, Nathan, they just highlight it, right? They just highlight it like crazy. It doesn't change the fact that Earth is measured flat out of their own books. Nothing changes that.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead and find fault with us when we are humans and can make a mistake by maybe thinking too fast before pondering something. But when we take the time to go to your books, you remember back in the day, someone said, give me a flat earth almanac. I said, there is no such thing because they've all hijacked all the almanacs to turn an elevation angle into a globe surface when it requires a flat surface. And so it's in the post-production that they convert it into a globe with the Haversine formula and the perspective view of the stars like a dome above our heads, when we know the cloud is 10,000 feet above the horizon, but it looks like it's touching it. We know the star is above the horizon, but it looks like it's touching it. You know, it's just amazing. Once you just do a little homework in their own manuals, they use flat earth angle measurements and then make it into a globe, just like Andrew Thomas Young says. All my refraction studies were done over a plane surface. That's what he means. But the earth is not flat. So we're going to do some geometric considerations. They all do geometric considerations to make it a globe.
Right.
Because you can't get a globe from an elevation angle measurement.
Good to see you, 10th.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's a good show today, especially that guy came in. He was stuck on orbits, and he's already in the paradigm where he thinks orbits are real. So everything can't work because now, even if it's flat, it's got to be orbiting. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't beg the question in orbits. You got to prove it first. And then when you go to his books, we have to use the vernal equinox date where the Earth is stationary and the stars are moving over the Earth, and his whole argument dies. But he doesn't know that.
Just kind of listen.
Yeah, I've had a lot of run-ins with people, like you said, my Christian brothers and sisters who are under the spell still. And I have to say, well, you can go on, since this won't affect your salvation. It does affect maybe other people's salvation because heliocentric model and Big Bang and all that doesn't need a God. But, you know, you could still go to heaven and be stupid while you're on earth. I mean, we're always told to confess our sins and admit when we're wrong and study to show yourself approved. And if you don't want to continue this discussion to where I've gone down to the origin of how the globe was created, that's fine. I'm not going to waste time trying to push a rope to you. So I'm done with you. I'm not trying to live my life because I need their acceptance.
Yeah, I got over that a long time ago.
It's like one deck with his list. Well, it's measured that way. You just don't know about it. Sorry that you think I'm arrogant. Sorry that you think that I'm crazy, but it's measured that way. And you've been poisoned with lies, and the whole world is under this lie. And it takes someone who looks at the origin of the globe to figure it out. And I've done that, and I'm happy where I'm at. So let's talk about something else.
Or not, as the case may be here.
No, on this show, we come to defend our research. On normal everyday life, I don't care to defend anything. I just proclaim it.
Right.
No, it's very
I
simple.
should be better now.
What?
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, my question was regarding the Gleason's map, but I had another question in mind. If you, 10th man, or maybe anyone else here on the panel, can educate me about the Haversine formula, or what's the purpose of the Haversine formula, and is it one of their switcheroos which they use to convert into a globe, flat earth measurements into a globe? So what's the Haversine formula used for, basically?
I'll give it to you in a nutshell. Is a post-production where they take the inner concave surface of the celestial sphere, which means perspective view of how the stars move east to west, like an arc of a protractor. And since an angle is two straight lines emanating from the vertex, it widens as it keeps going, but it still retains the same angle. And they put you on the arc of the surface of a protractor, the field of view of your eyes, create the half circle, retaining the angle still, but they got you on the arc rather than on the baseline of zero where the vertex is, where the measurement was originating from. And so it's post-production where they put you on the arc of a protractor, which is simultaneously the same as your perspective view of, let's use terms, sunrise, high noon, sunset, 0 to 180. And that's afterwards, just like Andrew Thomas Young afterwards has to do geometric considerations because all of his refraction studies were done over a plane. So that's when the Haverstein comes in. That's when spherical trig comes in because they've got to curve it. But was it measured that way originally? No. And do we have enough proof for that? Absolutely. They use the equatorial plane as the basis, which is a flat reference of 180, which is really the surface of the Earth, and there is no equatorial plane. I hope that helps.
Yes, very much so.
John did this with a light in his kitchen, refracted curvature, our own panel member.
Yeah,
made
it's
his
like,
kitchen floor into the curved surface of their Earth. You remember that, Nathan?
yeah, of course. Bunk and debunk, the little hippos.
All right, I gotta get going, but it's good to hear you guys. I'm glad I was able to jump on, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, book's coming along nicely. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, your book will come along, and it'll be the reference for any serious flat earther. I'm certain of that.
That lets me know you've been watching. Brilliant. Good to have you, 10th.
All right. God bless.
He missed the ultimate reference to flat Earth.
Yeah. I hope so. Speaking of which, when should we do it again, Adam?
I don't know what you're referring to.
The book.
Yeah.
When should we do it again?
QE, basically. I don't know. Sent us a message yesterday, didn't he? He's back again, apparently. He's about tonight.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, let me just read it. He says, Ballbusters is on.
Oh, okay.
And he's probably doing a treatment tonight. What did he say? Where are you, Stunja? Yeah, do the treatment tomorrow, and Ballbusters will be a go for Saturday.
And that was yesterday. So, in other words, we won't be doing the book tonight because he's doing a treatment.
Yeah, well, unless we pester him. But he doesn't start treatments till time we finish doing the book anyway, does he? So.
Okay.
Is he online? Is he online? He's online. I'll give him a ring in a minute.
Okay. Cool.
Oh. 10's gone.
Yeah, 10th's gone, yeah.
I'll catch up with him.
That will be the least well-received show of the week. Guarantee. And it was the same with the live audience, the least live viewers of the whole week.
And we're not blaming 10th for that.
I'm not blaming 10th. It's just how it seems to be on a Friday with Politics Discord server.
I missed all of that. How was it? Was it?
It's just standard fare now. Until they can get us... When they get on a stage, the levity it offers to us up on the stage means that people want to offer questions and invite themselves up on the stage, right? Whereas when we're just in the peanut gallery, it doesn't work anywhere near as well. Welcome back, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone. Adam.
Hi, Brian. I've got a video. I don't want to watch it because I've tried listening to it and it's awful sound. So I know you'll skip. But Darren Nesbitt at the Dutch Flat Earth Conference. I'll just read just a little, descriptive video. Darren Nesbitt's presentation at the Dutch Flat Earth Conference 2024, talking about the various aspects of being a flat earther and why no alternative model should be proposed if you want to show people the errors of heliocentricity and the vast universe hoax. That's quite a good thing. Don't substitute. I'm going to listen, but I say it's not worthy of playing because it's terrible sound.
You're saying, do you want to play this horrible sound video? Is that what you're asking?
I'm saying no. I'm saying that sounds quite... There was 2 videos. There's that one. I'll post the links in Master B.
Okay.
But no, you'll go skits, mate. I tried listening to it there and it's awful. But I'll stick it in Master B. But it sounds the right message. I know Darren's... You know Darren Nesbitt, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's quite good, isn't it? That somebody that's that new age, is saying that message. I thought it was quite cool. And then this one, I've not had a chance. I'll literally just check me links, but this one's for Brian. And we'll go mad because I've just read his whiteboard. But look what's happening. Look what we're discussing now. Great news.
What's this on, Adam?
This is Nick at Phuket Word.
Oh, yes. What?
That's what I've seen again. But you can see what caught my eye was the thumbnail. He's got one of my graphics in his thumbnail. So I'd looked at it. You can see, obviously, we've got experiments here, which is a bit, I don't know if he's tongue-in-cheek or what, because he's called it the final measurement. But short distance plus long distance experiment. So I'm not sure what he's, like I say, whether that's tongue-in-cheek, but seems like he's dealing with it. Look, because look, measure difference in degrees. So we're talking degrees in terms of orientation down, I assume, and changing off. So again, I'm going to watch that tonight or when I get 5 just to catch up and see if the pitch data is starting to impact, because that's what that says to me.
I know that Nick is one of the people that has commented on the pitch data videos. He definitely commented on the ball of flight bozo video that I made in response to their responses to the pitch data presentation. But I'm pretty sure he left a comment on the pitch data one as well, so he has seen it. So it is making an impact. We are definitely making an impact. It's without a doubt, I reckon. Actually, Mark Sargent was saying to me that within the next month, he'll have me on the show. Within the month, he'll have me on the show, or within a month, let's just say. So, but I reckon he'll end up having me on sooner, because I reckon this is going to become a bigger deal, as it can't not.
Jolly good. Pleased to hear it.
Well, the thing about it is it's one of those things where what's the ballers going to come out with? Are they going to come out with a video that states pitch data disproven? No, for start, that makes absolutely no sense as a heading, does it?
Well, I'm glad you put that in at this junction, because we should have recognised that sooner with celestial navigation. That is to say, what are you going to do? Say celestial navigation's wrong? Because what they managed to do was reposition it initially, obviously we caught it eventually, into it being our claim, and then saying how our claim fails with height. It's like, No, what are you going to do? Say celestial navigation doesn't work? It does. It's the basis of the maps and models that you think you're standing on. But the same applies here, doesn't it? What are you going to do? Tell us that the pitch data is wrong? No, it's not. It's life and death. It's being studied by the NTSB.
They've gone for the third option at the moment, which is that gyroscopes don't work as we all understand. They actually realign based on an ever-changing down. But they don't need calibrating for that. They only need calibrating.
Net down zero after they recalibrate and defy their own principle. You wouldn't notice because the plane's moving around with the cage that's moving around the gyro that's defying its own principles so it can be globy, obviously.
Which would require somebody to actually operate the plane to follow this zero that's moving around.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
no good, just the gyro realigning itself. The plane's still got to move, hasn't it, right? Oh,
yes.
Unlucky baller.
No, you just don't notice. I mean, there'd be no difference between net deflection zero in a principle that defies the very useful nature of a gyro versus a flat plane. They're both basically the same.
Yeah, it's just an attempt so far by them to hijack the data for themselves.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. I mean, the people who...
They don't want to touch the data itself at all. No. They won't go near. They'll do everything but, discuss everything but. Like say about gyros work, how you need this new data that doesn't exist. They won't discuss the pitch data in of itself. It's self-explanatory.
Yeah, they're not going to be taking ownership of this one. Because they can't. There's no globe reference in it. It's just that simple.
Well, I already had Trevor Austin, that commercial pilot on their side. I've already had him try to ask me, what would the pitch data look like? What would the pitch data look like over a flat plane?
Like this.
A direct attempt
that's
to hijack.
That's where you go. That's where you go. Bosh! And show him the pitch data.
That's what I did. I said it looked exactly like the official NTSB pitch data that I presented. That's what I said to him. Do you know what I mean? It's like
nice throw it back at him. Like, what would pitch data on a globe look like?
Oh, I didn't get any answer to that.
Because there isn't any. There isn't pitch data on a globe. Pitch data isn't on a globe.
It can't exist simultaneously. The two can't exist simultaneously. Like.
Yeah, there is no pitch data on a globe.
What I've been told is that it's a straw man the state. Now, this is what I've been told. I'm not making this up. Because I don't share all the craziness I get. That it's a straw man to claim that horizontal is not a changing local position or something like that. That I'm building a straw man when I state that or something like that. Okay. When I give them back their own claim.
You don't give them back their own claim. You give them back the pitch data. Bosh. Keep slamming it on the desk every time. What are they going to do? Show you where there's a ball in there.
Exactly. But it's so ridiculous that, what was it? Oh no. This is all I also got. I'm begging the question when I state that horizontal is a constant.
Wow. You just say thank you very much to that, don't you? If that's your retort, yeah, that the use of the term horizontal is applicable and is universal, yeah, if that's begging the question and that's their response, you've won, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Because again, you say we can't go into the pitch data. We've just got to attack the meaning of a word, and that we need to change the meaning of the word for one purpose only, and that's to make it plausible whilst traversing the surface of a sphere. If we're not doing that, then the word means what it always does mean, and doesn't have to have this magical realignment. Horizontal, yeah? Having one part no higher than the other, unless, of course, you're on a ball, in which case no parts equal to each other. it's nonsense where they have to go. But it's notable, like I said, they won't go near the data. So we attack the word horizontal. You go.
And why do they need to do that?
Yeah,
because it's horizontal in the pitch data.
Exactly. They need to change and bend known reality to make it somehow fit. Like they're trying to hijack the pitch data for themselves, which is an impossibility. Because the only way they can do it is the way that Adam detailed earlier, and then it was detailed how that fails. Like, not only is it a fail in reality, but it's just a fail geometrically. I don't know what they're going to do.
Nothing. They won't do anything.
You know what the most telling part is that when one of them states something like, let's just say, well, one of them states that me saying that horizontal is a constant orientation, that is me begging a question. None of the rest of them, even though there's other comments in there that would even kind of contradict that, none of the rest of them actually call that person out and say, no, that's ridiculous, or anything. Like, they would, no matter how ridiculous any of their comments get, none of the rest of them will go and tell the other person, no, this is ridiculous. None of them that I can't say no baller in the world, but none of the ones that are at my channel, comment on my channel and making comments, hardly ever correct the opposition. The only person I've actually had correct the opposition from their own side is that pilot Trevor Austin, where he's had to correct them on claims they were making concerning flight with me that I was pointing out they're wrong about. They thought I was wrong about certain things. And he would then correct them and say, no, actually, Brian has a point here. But then he'd somehow try to placate them by trying to somehow still wrangle what I said to work on a globe or something. As opposed to, no, you're just wrong, Brian is right. He couldn't, as a pilot, there were certain things over the time that he couldn't just sit there and not say something about when people on his own side were stating things that were just straight out incorrect concerning flight.
Weasels, all of them. They're not interested in Earth being correctly defined as per their religion. They're just interested in us being shut down. Brian's wrong.
Pretty much.
That's what's interesting to them. Brian's wrong. Look at how stupid Brian is.
Yeah, you know what it is? I don't even give them a whole lot of stuff that they can personally attack me on. When I've been wrong, I've admitted it. Do you know what I mean? When they tried to make me out to be lying, I've shown that wasn't correct. And their own side didn't join in with them anytime that happened, because they all know I'm not dishonest. When I was wrong about stuff, as I said, I accepted it and I stated it. I was wrong in the story. So they don't really have much to attack me on. That kind of way, personally. So they end up being at a quandary where there's just a unison of them coming into the comments saying Brian gets everything wrong all the time, and then you know what I mean, and then 10 of them agreeing with that person, and then one of that 10 people make the same type of comment on a different video, and they all agreeing with that.
Almost
it's a heap of nothing.
Like an echo chamber.
Exactly, like an echo chamber.
Nah, we're the echo chamber.
Yeah, according to them. Yeah, if I say something out of that one of the rest of you don't agree with, or you say something that I don't agree with, we will straight away, like even earlier when you said something, Nathan, and I didn't like the way you said it, on the live show, I actually said it to you. Because we're just being straight and honest. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to beat around the bush and pretend that I'm okay with a statement when I'm not okay with it. And the same for me, if I say something and you're not okay with it, you're going to state it, regardless of the time or place. And I mean, yet they call us an echo chamber when we are all constantly keeping each other in check in one way or another.
Yeah, it's projection.
In one way, their side is easier because they are not kept in check by each other. But on the other, but that's like kind of a short-term thing. It's like short-term, that's easier, but a long-term, that's much more difficult, because they all then have to support incorrectness. Whereas on our side, it's more difficult in the short term because we will call each other out immediately, and you have to must deal with it immediately. But in the long term, then we don't. You're not seen as if you in unison supported a load of incorrectness. If you get what I mean.
Well, yeah, we're oppressed, so we're expected to have some unity with other people who declare themselves as flat earthers as well, right?
Yeah, well, that's not the case. We will call each other out, and we call other flat earthers out. And the flat earth side is more difficult because you're more likely to get called out. Whereas on the ball side, you can say any old nonsense as long as they're happy with it and they won't call each other out. But in the long term, that works really bad. A great example was years ago when they didn't realize that water vapor was a gas. And you had Professor Phil Bell, who was supposed to have worked in the hydro sector. I can't remember the word I'm looking for. Worked with hydro, right? Hydrodynamics. And he claimed to be a professor, and he had them all in unison over on Jose's, laughing at us for 3 days, saying that water vapor was a gas. It's like 3 days they all joined in with each other. None of them actually looked to see if they were all right, all correct or not. And even if they did, they didn't say anything about it. It's like, for 3 days it was easy, but it's now for the rest of history, it's difficult. All those people, Sean Hawkins, all the people that were there, Blue Marble Science, all these people that were there at the time on Jose's laughing at us, all these people, and for the rest of history, it's noted that they were all laughing at people saying water vapor was a gas.
But you see why? Again, and it's another example of what Nathan said. They're not interested in settling an argument or even correctly defining their ball by their own rhetoric. It's just about trying to disprove or ridicule a flat earther. Yeah, to the point that they'll contradict themselves in basics like gas. Yeah. Silliness.
Well, I mean, I think the analogy I've used with Rubiff himself about him calling him Glenn Titanic Williamson, it's like they're trying to stay on a sinking ship and pretend it's not sinking. You know what I mean? There's no point at the very last minute them all trying to jump off when the thing has gone down more or less and the rescue ship has sailed away. But that's what's going to happen with them, I think.
Nah, they'll be gibbering, dribbling old heliocentrists, and even when people are mocking them majoritatively, they'll just get more angry with them and just be bitter old men.
Maybe that's what they will become, just bitter old men. You know, I would have thought that they'd have that. I don't know. The human instinct to save yourself, though, will become strong. Maybe the Blue Marble Science types will hang in there, but all their supporters are going to jump ship. You're going to be a lot of people jumping ship just before it's too late. I think. You know, when the writing's on the wall, I think there's a lot of them suddenly going to be jumping ship, which is not too far away, possibly.
What makes you say that?
If this TFE thing, that doesn't work out for them, what are you going to do? It means nothing to us, but it means everything to them, you know.
You're right, and I'm slightly lost words because, of course, we point it out, but because it is actually inconsequential to me, I don't really ponder it too much. Yes, we can say it, but it's like almost like content rather than something I'm actually worried about or considering for myself. Yeah, we point out that these people have got beliefs and that they're trying to affirm that belief by going down there. When you really think about that, you're like, bloody hell. That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it's just content. Like, it's entertainment. It could be part of a show, you know, all these kind of things. But in the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything to us. But for them, that is absolutely everything. The amount of them that are going to be tuning in with, like, under tension and pressure on that day. Is it whether on what day it is they're going to be tuning in? The solstice in December or something. I don't know what day it's on it. But the amount of them that are focused on December and you know what I mean, and highly focused on it. I mean, the night before they won't be able to sleep, whereas anyone who's a flat earther will sleep like a baby.
I mean, does it? There is flat earthers out there that this is consequential to, though, isn't there?
But they're not really flat earthers. If you, do you know what I mean? That's when I say flat earthers, I'm talking about people who are actually flat earthers. If you know what I mean, like not people who have a belief that can be changed. You know, what you know can't be changed. You just know it, but a belief can change, can't it?
Yeah. But you're right. We've been pointing that out to you, though, eh?
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing because it's going to show the real from the fake, you know, or from the just not real. I can't say the people who are believers are fake. They're not being fake. They genuinely believe, but all they do is believe. What good is that to anyone? But that's what I'm saying about the pitch. I don't want to be saying to Mark Sargent, quick, get me on. But
why not?
I reckon because like he said he's going to bring me on within the next month. I think that when he does bring me on, if it goes on a few weeks, I reckon he'll probably end up going, Jesus, this is so cut and dry. They should have had you on before this. You know what I mean? Because he was saying that the election and that is coming up, so there's going to be a lot of content he'll have to cover throughout that, you know. But I don't think he realizes, like, no offense to him, I don't think he actually realizes that the election is nothing in importance to this. It's important there and then at that time and space in America, but a month later it won't matter because there'll be a new thing that's important. You know what I mean? As opposed to...
Is that his reasoning for not having you on sooner then?
It's equally important.
I would say not. I would say the elections, that they come and go, just like a war comes and goes, but the earth is still claimed to be a ball.
Oh, why? I already know your position. You just explained it.
Okay, well, what's my position?
Well, I'm just saying that you literally just said there's no point. This is something that is momentary. This is something that's novel. This is something that's political. This is a season. Isn't that what you versus what we talk about, which is like existentially more important? Is that not your point?
Yes, that is my point. Yes.
Right.
Stupid.
So I wasn't trying to be rude, so I apologize if I came. I was just saying I get it, like, but here's my rebuttal to that. When I say it's equally important, it's because just the way that Neil deGrasse Tyson lies to me, so does Julianne Reed. The lie is the same. Like what's happening psychologically is the same. So when politicals, I get what you're saying when people are like, well, I'm going to vote for this side because or I think this person, you still have the mind virus. The point is what's happening during election season is a hyper-focused version of what happened when Flat Earth blew up. Why? Because the deception, the game, and the lies and the tactics are exactly the same. That's why I'm saying it's equal, because it's a different thing as far as rhetoric is concerned, but it's the same abuse, the same gaslighting, it's the same everything.
I'm not sure this recording's still going. My GPU's gone a bit squirrely, I think. But either way, I think I'm going to round out. Yeah, it still seems to be ticking along. Yeah, I'll do a proper round out. With that, I'm going to say another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.